Whoa.
He tells the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, I will say that Philadelphia, and you will the Giants and Washington team, they need to be on their game because we're going to be on our game. We will be improved over last year. Oh, the gift that keeps on giving, that is the owner, Jerry Jones. Hello, fellas, how are we doing? So let's start with you, Jeff Darlington. Your reaction to Jerry Jones's comments.
I love it. I'm fine with it. He's the most entertaining owner in football and perhaps all of sports. He knows exactly what he's doing when he's doing this. It's all about the drama. It's all about the storylines. Yes, the NFC East is the most overrated division in all of sports. No, the Dallas Cowboys are not in position to be in first place in it. Basically everything he says, I don't necessarily believe, but I do love it because it means football's around the corner. I love Jerry Jones. I love everything he says. I am totally fine with it.
Lewis, you're shaking your head. So am I.
What else do you expect from Jerry? Look, Jerry gets it. It's more than just about football when the games are played. There's the lead up to the game being played. There's the engagement with the fan base, getting people excited, raising expectations, raising hope, putting pressure on his football team, quite honestly, to say, hey, look, and in particular, the guy on your screen, Dak Prescott, you can't have a repeat of what you had in San Francisco when our season ended last year. You can't be turning the football over like that. We're supposed to be better. We're supposed to be better on offense. We got you another wide receiver.
Have you had enough of this?
Tony Pollard,
Dak Prescott, the Cowboy?
Yeah, it's getting old already.
Zach Martin, we'll get that figured
It's just
out.
ridiculous. Absolutely.
We have a defensive player of the year type player. Right.
All right, we're going to get rid of Louis Riddick and crew and stuff in here. And hello, good people and Eagle fans. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy, Game Time Bryan. And add to the mix, my man, Space Cowboy Media. That's a lot to speak there.
Space Cowboys Media.
I'm just used to Space Cowboy, but it's Space Cowboy Media.
That's okay with me.
So what's up, good people? I see Roland's Review. I see Gina, Dallas Diva. Let's see.
John
of course,
Jones.
Crystal. What's up, Crystal? How are you doing? Welcome to all the lovely ladies in the place with the style and grace. There's Joanne Gonzalez.
Byron B says no Eagles talk.
What's up? All right,
What's
so
up, everybody?
Here's what's amazing. And we talk a lot of trash here. And let me introduce my man, Space Cowboy. Space Cowboy, how did you come up with that name, first of all?
So I launched my channel back.
Okay, I see what you did.
You get it?
I see what you did there. Space Cowboy launched. Okay, all right. I see what you did.
Can't.
I don't know if you guys even are gonna even be familiar with what I'm talking about, but growing up there was a anime known as basically a Cowboy Bebop, and there's the whole premise is a bunch of space cowboys doing stuff, and that's where the name came from because it's one of my favorite animes. Yes, I'm a nerd, so I don't really give it. I don't give a damn what you think.
Dude, flex, man. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I actually like it, and his logo's awesome. And it goes perfect with him because he's like this. He's a stat guy. If you want to know something.
I will put Space Cowboys statistics and stuff against anything that you get.
He does the work. He's just not speaking a lot.
As opposed to a guy like me who's like usually nappy hair, rolls out of bed, and just starts growling at you guys, trying to keep you up to date and stuff. So tonight I want to talk about where we are right now, because see, sometimes you have to be thankful for what you have. I'm the guy who's not only thankful that I have a glass that's half full, I'm thankful that I even have a glass. But we've got people who are just, that are killing the Cowboys right now. We've got the media out there that's basically saying, Dak Prescott is the worst quarterback in the history of football. He's the only guy out there throwing interceptions and stuff, that his teammates are disrespecting him, that he's overpaid, and, it's just like we got no chance in hell.
Alan Williams.
Anything. So I want to go back through because I remember being at training camp last year. I remember the off season from hell, and I want to get other people's perspective on where this team is now versus this time last year and how that's going to translate into us being a better team.
Yeah. I'll go quickly. Listen, we are far and away in a way better place this year than we were, last year at this time. Like I told Space on a previous live that we were doing the cartwheels with Anthony Barr. And that was the name I had brought up early in the process, and we did nothing except
Anthony Barr we were excited about getting Anthony Barr.
Yeah.
Okay, let's be real here.
Yeah, and just remember all the question marks we had going into last year. Okay, now as it turned out, Michael Gallup didn't really pan out.
After getting that contract,
there was a lot of question marks going into last year. So the fact, and I said this the other day, and I'm going to say it again, I'm sorry, but it was a successful year. We didn't win a Super Bowl, and that stinks. But we won a darn playoff game. We won back-to-back 12-win seasons.
Right.
Come on, man. Only in Cowboy Nation do we have to hear a road playoff win is a disappointment in the end. I don't buy that. We didn't have home field. We weren't going to have a home playoff. Right? What was the only scenario that was going to allow us to have a home playoff game? The Eagles would have had to have lost. We were it would have been tough for us to be home. So it was going to be tough. Anyway, we're in a lot better situation.
Shout out to Terry, who reminds people that when Dak Prescott was a rookie, everybody said we had a loaded team, and basically anybody could have done what Dak did. But we were a 4-12 team before Dak, the year before, with a great offensive line, with a really good running attack and things like that, with a Des Bryant and things. So maybe that's not the case. Space, let me get your comments and thoughts on where we are now versus last year and the outlook from you.
Yeah, I think the big thing is when we went into last year, we knew the situation that we were in. We're coming off the loss to the 49ers in the wild card. It was disappointing all around. We can, this person's, we knew that everyone really disappointed in that game. But what I think really worried me was I felt like after that game, all right, you know what? We got a tough draw versus the 49ers. They went on to go to the NFC whatever. Congratulations. But, and that's not taking anything away from them. However, when we look at our team, we were like, all right, we have the pieces. Maybe we just need a couple other things, and maybe we can do a little bit better. But the Cowboys made a decision to trade away Amari Cooper for reasons.
Yeah.
They let go of Lyle Collins. However, here's the thing. They did have Terrence Steele to replace him, which is cool and all. But then you lost guys like Randy Gregory, but we saw how it panned out in Denver this year.
Well, we were looking at potential. When you looked at Randy Gregory, you said, okay, he's beginning to get it. He's going to be a great pass.
I was kind of annoyed how that played out just because, and I kind of got lit up a little bit from certain people that he doesn't owe the Cowboys anything. I never said that Randy owed Dallas anything, but they did go out on a limb for him.
Yeah.
And it's not like they lowballed the man. It was, I'm not really sure. I think the Cowboys thought they had a deal in place with him, and the story, but the agent who's based out of Denver basically got them to throw out the language in the contract, right? About what? About his what was
basically
the language?
It was like
exactly?
If you get suspended, that you could end up they could retroactively go back for money and stuff on the contract, and then they tried to case it up. Oh well, we put this in almost all the contracts, and probably when they couldn't get Dak's deal done that year, and that they were trying at the last moment, that was probably the same language in the contract that Dak had. Now the thing that's kind of crazy to me when you looked at that season, I kind of think of it like, of course, I have Joe Boo. And Joe Boo is from Major League, and if you go through the premise of Major League, the owner wanted to move the team, so she basically got rid of all the talented players and stuff like that. I almost felt like last year, that's what the Cowboys were trying to do with the team. They were trying to get rid of Mike McCarthy. They were trying to dump the salaries. They were trying to get ready for the next guy. You can't honestly look at the Cowboys going into that season and say they were trying to win a Super Bowl. And it looked like to me, like I said, okay, if we get Sean Payton, if we play bad enough,
or
we get
worst
Sean
case,
Payton,
Dan Quinn.
We've dumped all these salaries. We're going to have cap room, so that way the new guy can set it up. But the Cowboys had like Major League. We banded together and played a lot better than what they thought. That's why all of a sudden when they started winning, they started trying to go get,
Brandon
Jared
Cooks.
Judy, and Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
They started realizing like, oh shit, we're better than we thought. If we go ahead and get some talented people here, maybe we can win.
Yeah.
So I think that whole dynamic
that's an interesting take.
backfired because I honestly believe that it was like we're getting rid of Mike McCarthy because they were hell on Mike McCarthy. They killed him that offseason.
Even in the media, which is not like Jerry.
Yeah.
Remember he was making them comments, and Mike himself had to come out and like, well, hold up, I don't agree with this. And,
Angelica Barone and Lola, Miss Hot Sauce. What's up? What's up? What's up, lady? And Lady Libra. Shout out to each and every one of you guys. Now, I need to put in the link in the description. If you haven't subbed up to my man Space Cowboy, definitely check him out. I'm going to put him up in here as well as Game Time. If we can get Game Time up to 500 subscribers, he's going to do the Pacquiao chip.
He's trying to burn me, man.
Okay, so he's going to be burning for you. All right, but I honestly feel that's what the Cowboys did that year. You can't honestly look at what the Cowboys did and said they're going to be a playoff team. I'm sorry. And for anybody that goes through and says that the Cowboys were a failure, I almost say that they overachieved with what they had going in there. You don't lose 2 starting offensive linemen, 2 starting wide receivers, a starting defensive end, and not replace any of them. And your big signing is a linebacker who's coming back from an ACL.
Yeah.
Well, we also have to think about it too offensively. Your biggest signing. Listen, you only sign, and I'm looking at the list here. You sign, and I'm talking about like you re-signing Michael Gallup or anything. Your 2 outside, your 3 outside additions were Bryan, a fullback.
Mm-hmm.
James Washington, who broke his gosh darn
the unicorn,
basically played in 1 game.
And then Jason Peters, who was your backup swing tackle, and then you added T.Y. Hilton
40 years old.
Season. Right, but and you were expecting, hey, we need you to win, but this is where I think, and this was my expectations going into 2022, and people want to try and rewrite history and make it seem like that Cowboys team was better than what it is, be like, oh, you're just making excuses. No, if you follow me, I can only speak for myself here. If you follow me throughout the entire trials and tribulations of that previous season, no one in their right mind would think the Cowboys were going to be 12-5 again. No one thought they were going to go and win a playoff game. No one was going to think that. That was literally... I remember discussions where can this team be 10 wins? Can this team get 10 wins? That was literally how bad people were looking at this team, especially after Dak Prescott got hurt.
Oh, right? Literally, I was just like, the season's done. I was just like, it's just done.
But here,
go ahead.
Where I think the Cowboys really did themselves in is we went into 2020, coming out of the 2021 season, we thought, okay, we have a decent gap in the division because, okay, the Giants are trying to find their footing, the Washington's being Washington, and the Eagles are kind of starting to put their pieces together. And I think where the Cowboys did themselves wrong was you tried to move stuff around and you got really carried away with yourself, and then you see Philly capitalize on that, and you see what they did regardless of how they did and all that other stuff. They took advantage of a situation they noticed, especially with Dallas, right?
Yeah.
So I think the way I would look at it is going into this year, the 2 best things you've done is added Brandon Cooks and Stephon Gilmore onto, and you realistically, your only 2 losses, maybe 3 if you want to count it, Dalton Schultz, Connor McGovern, and Zeke. Yeah. Those are really the 3, and Tony Pollard's emerged. You got other guys in the room. You have
Hello, Miss Jackie.
You have Peyton Hendershot, and you also added Schoonmaker, which, Schoonmaker, we'll see how he does. But point being is the difference between last year and this year is you replaced the supplemental talents that you had in the room that year. Because it was like you let all these people walk out the door and you're expecting to contend with the same roster, but minus a couple of guys. Now, this go around, and I'm very big on this. I don't want any excuses for this Cowboys team because this is what happens, especially with the front office, is they could be like, oh, I really wish we just didn't have enough guys. And, then that just absolves you from any, wrongdoing. Especially if those that are trying to put the blame on certain people, like we have to look at it for what it is. Okay, you changed your offensive coordinator who loves to run his curl routes, and for some reason, when he gets into a dire situation, he can't schematically attack an opponent when it's necessary.
Right.
But now I think what's the important part is Mike McCarthy's running the show, and he has no excuses at this point because you had Kellen Moore kind of attached at the hip when he got hired.
Exactly.
And that was that Jason Garrett leftover. And you're kind of like, okay, so you brought in Dan Quinn. He's letting Dan Quinn do his thing. And now you're like, okay, well, why aren't you letting him touch the offense? And I think the problem is the message gets old. And, you know, I never believe when you have a new coach coming in, you should just put him with strings attached. Like, not saying he's a puppet, but you know what I mean? Like, you're basically like, yo, you got to use this guy.
Well, right. I never liked that either. Like, you bring in a coach, but, you know, like he Parcells' old adage, you know, you want me to cook dinner, but you don't want me to go out and buy the groceries type of deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I've got a take on all of that, though. But I want to say for, you know, the Eagle trolls that are in here, you know, I'm going to stop wasting my time because I'm actually going to say, instead of y'all worrying about the Dallas Cowboys, you might want to worry about what's going on in your own house because shit ain't perfect over there. Y'all getting a few injuries, quite a few injuries, in fact, over there. You've got some issues with your quarterback and your coach. And it might not be quite as rosy as you think it's going to be. But see, here's the thing I think the Cowboys, their thing is, Jerry and Steven, they love to play with the offense. That's their toy.
Like the shiny little.
The defense, you know, I don't think Rod Marnelli, that they ended up interfering with Rod Marnelli when he was the coach.
They let Rod Marnelli have free reign.
You know, like Taco Charlton was a Rod Marnelli type guy. You could look at Rod Marnelli. I would have been happy if he had just been the defensive line coach as opposed to the defensive coordinator. But I think what happened is, as bad as the defense was in 2020, and to me, it's amazing that we have done a complete 180 on our defense from 2020 to where we are right now.
As deep as I can remember.
They realized a guy who knows football, he needs to be the one calling the shots. And I think they look at that and say, you went from worst to one of the best in 2 years. The fact that we went ahead and paid Malik Hooker is a complete 180 from what they did. They didn't care about safeties or defensive linemen.
Yeah,
they always liked edge rushers.
He was a candidate.
They liked cornerbacks. They liked linebackers. But, safeties, we don't need safeties.
Yeah.
I mean, it was literally just...
This move really surprised me today.
We were talking about trying to get Earl Thomas or Jamal Adams.
Thank God we didn't pull that
we
trigger.
are stacked tight with safeties. Yeah. That is a complete change. The fact that we drafted a defensive tackle in the first round, that's not Cowboys.
Randy Stites hated it, but man, it was just a shock.
So
man.
I think what's kind of happened was, like you said, Kellen Moore was joined at the hip. He couldn't come in there and say, screw Kellen Moore and his offense. We're doing it my way, because anything that went wrong, it's going to be, well, we had this genius in Kellen Moore and you didn't want to do what he did. He had to let Kellen Moore fail enough that the Jones would say, we got to get rid of him.
Yeah,
what would you do? So now that's where he got carte blanche. And you have Dan Quinn, who has done an incredible job. And I dare say, when you listen to the players and they talk about, the receivers are saying how much more simplistic it is. Now, of course, the talking media is saying they had to dumb it down for Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
No, it's the receivers are saying, I like it simpler. We want to be able to just go when Dak Prescott is able to make the calls in real time and stuff. And I look at it and say,
why did it take this long?
When we were in hurry up, when we were in 2-minute offense, that was when Dak was at his best. When Kellen Moore was calling plays,
what's up, Jeff Lee?
A lot of times we were making a lot more mistakes. So I think we're actually going towards actually using the strengths of Dak and going through and we're going to play football. Some of that shit that we did with Kellen Moore, it just wasn't good.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things, too, that I think is going under the radar is all the analytics hires that the Dallas Cowboys are doing. Mm-hmm. I want to make it clear that analytics is not just strictly, okay, in a game situation, when do you go for it or what plays do you call? That's not also – there's also the part of it of when do you pay these guys, when do you go about paying them, And for those that don't know, they're hiring people from across the NFL. They just hired a guy from the Tampa Bay Rays, which is one of the smartest organizations in all of North American sports.
Baltimore
and they've been
Ravens.
developing players. Baltimore Ravens, Indianapolis Colts. And that's the thing is, under Jason Garrett, he even said it himself, that's something they don't do. But the problem is that you don't want to work harder, right? You want to work
smarter.
And I think that, going to a West Coast offense just, it helps your quarterback, but also it makes your offense a little bit better in a sense, because here's the thing, like with West Coast offenses, the strength is you're doing quicker passes, unlike a Kellen Moore system where it's like, okay, you're trying to get what's the word I'm looking for? A long developing play to develop and then see how it goes from there. The problem is that, sure, well, you get the plays here and there. The Cowboys really didn't dial up a whole lot of those, and it was just like you put yourself in a situation where your quarterback can get hit in those long developing plays, and meanwhile in a West Coast offense, it's just point and go, and you want to work on these short and intermediate passes. Also helps your quarterback get into a rhythm.
Right.
So I think at the end of the day, if we're going off of the judgment that, hey, Dan Quinn was brought in here, he was basically able to do what he needed to do to get that defense now to a top unit in the NFL. We should assume that Mike McCarthy is going to be able to do his part, because during his tenure in Green Bay, he on average had a top 10 offense.
Yeah.
And also on top of that, experience matters. When you have a guy in Kellen Moore that's on the job training,
Oh, God.
that doesn't help. That doesn't make the situation any better.
There you go.
Lord,
I couldn't have said it
Lord,
better
Lord,
myself.
Lord.
Really.
Oh, my Lord. I'm sorry. I'm going to church here. I agree.
No,
Yeah, the fact that we have always hired all of these guys from the Detroit Lions, Scott Linehan, Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
It's like, give me somebody who's won something. And all these people out here that keep saying, oh, they were stupid to get rid of Kellen Moore. Let me ask you, look, how many people have left the Dallas Cowboys that we were told that we're going to miss? Have we actually missed? Amari Cooper's the only one I can say right there.
And the only reason we missed
Garrett. Oh, look at the disaster he was.
The only reason we missed Amari Cooper was because we had nobody. After Gallup got hurt, we were counting on Gallup. He got hurt. We were up. You know what? We were up the creek without a paddle with that one.
Oh my God.
Noah Brown was. You got CD getting double teamed, still balling, still getting his catches. Noah Brown, dropping balls some games, but he came up big sometimes for what he did. Now they're talking about him not even making the Houston Texans. But and I say this, and we're gonna get back to Dak. You made a comment about dumbing down the offense, and they're putting, and these Eagle fans
Williams
like to put little digs, basically at Dak Prescott. But Mark. Does Dak Prescott not make players better around him? Name the receivers that have left this organization, and they've had their biggest years under Dak Prescott.
Des Bryant had the most yards per completion with Dak Prescott. Randall Cobb. Basically Green Bay gave up on him because he was down to like 400 some yards, a season. And was injured. He came in with the Cowboys. He had 3 touchdowns, but it should have been 6 because 3 were called back. Some of them with stupid penalties, and ended up getting paid by the Texans.
I would say
they had Deshaun Watson throw him, and he went back to 400-yard seasons.
I would say Noah Brown got a deal based on what he did last year. I would say the receiver that went to Miami, who's not doing well. Who am I thinking? Wilson? Yeah, Cedric Wilson. I'm sure I'm forgetting
but
names.
Here's the thing. Think about this. Cedric, when you talk, people are like, Dallas has always had great talents. Think about some of the guys we've had. Alan Hearns.
Good name. Another name.
Oh, God, what's his name? Who was just busting on Dak kind of with Terrence Williams. Okay.
Terrence Williams, he's made a lot of guys look good, and they've gone to do nothing. So I don't know.
But I'm just like, okay, so when we played Tampa Bay, the starting receiving core was CD.
I love weed.
Dennis Houston, Semi Fioco.
You had literally in the starting
and Noah Brown.
No, if you recall, during the starting lineups on the Sunday Night Football broadcast, they announced Tony Pollard as a part of the receivers. That's how porous your wide receiver core was.
That's crazy.
And the thing is like, this is where I get irritated with the Cowboys organization for years past, is that if you're trying to prove that your dude's the guy, and we're still having this freaking conversation in the year of our Lord 2023, what do you think to load up the offense, right? Because when you go into a year where you have a practice squad guy in Deontay Thompson as a starting wide receiver, Allen Hurns, a guy that was a solid 3 in Jacksonville before he came to Dallas. Okay, he's a starting wide receiver. Cole Beasley, all right, he's a solid guy. All right, cool. And you're expected, and you expect to win a championship with that particular group of guys. I mean, listen, I've said it every single year, is that it takes a team to win a championship. And
I've been saying that, and I'm not sorry to cut you off. I've been saying that it's a team game. Space. Go ahead, finish your thought.
No, and I was going to say, listen, and there's no problem with acknowledging that. Like, we understand.
They act like I'm trying to down
Kevin
Jalen
Langsford.
Hurts.
We signed T.Y. Hilton in the end of the season.
Yeah, he only played.
He's
games.
like, you're not. No, the starting. You have to understand.
And then
our starting roster of wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb was the only wide receiver who actually had caught a touchdown catch. And this is a guy who was going into his third season that we weren't sure if he was a number one wide receiver.
No. Well, so you saw in the Giant game.
And here's my conspiracy theory here, too. As I was saying that the Cowboys were basically kind of rebuilding, I thought that the Cowboys were also sending a message to Dak Prescott to say, we got to do another contract. And since you're taking so much money, we can't put talent around you. We got to get rid of Amari Cooper.
That's how I felt.
Such a BS.
That's how I felt, though. It's almost like they were punishing Dak. No, but I think he's agreeing with you.
But that's honestly the way I felt. I felt like that's.
Oh, you want the big money? Fine. You got to win on your own, bro.
Yeah, we can't afford anybody else.
Sorry.
But that's fundamentally not true, because you look at all these dudes that get paid all this money. Again, you look at the big contract. You look at that contract and you say to yourself, oh my God, that's a lot of money you're giving that guy. But you have to look at how much you're actually paying the guy. And listen, when you have a guy in Dak Prescott where you're paying him, all right, you made the decision to pay him. I don't care if you like it or not. You gave him the money. You elected to structure the contract in a certain way to where you were like, okay, we're not going to, we're going to backload it.
Yeah.
$17 million cap hit, then a $20 million cap hit, and you don't do anything with that. That's on you as the organization.
Oh, hold up, though. Think about
there's more.
Wait, no. Think about the first 4 years of him being there that he cost $4 million. If you were going to build a killer roster, why didn't you do it that first 4 years when you were literally paying?
And you made him play on
a kicker.
You made him play on his 5th-year option. Then you franchised him.
But the big thing too is how this. Listen, if they felt like I don't want to pay him, then you didn't have to pay. And I'm not saying that in any regard to Prescott. It's just
I hear you. Yeah,
you have to make that decision. You can't just I don't know. No, because the problem is, and this is
hello Tammy, how are you doing?
Across the league, you want to get these extensions done as soon as possible because you could take.
Then you can use the time.
And use it to, well, not only that, you can take the cap hit and spread it out so it's not a big ass cap hit. Because now the Cowboys position themselves in a situation after this year to where you have to, for example, you have to pay Zach Martin at some point, regardless of what you do this year. He has a $24 million cap hit next year. Dak Prescott has a $54 million cap hit next year. And again, the Cowboys did it themselves to build the roster that way. In a sense of, listen, you could have done an extension earlier this offseason if you really wanted to. You said no. Okay, that's fine. And I'm not trying to take away what they did this offseason. You did rework Brandon Cook's contract to take that cap hit and turn it into a $6 million cap hit, which it was huge at first. But again, I think going back to my original point, the team game, right? It's a team game. Any smart organization realizes this. You see how the Chiefs are doing it. You see how the Eagles did it. They understand the situation for what it was, and that's why they managed to get to the Super Bowl in last year's Super Bowl. But for the Cowboys, listen, I'll be honest. Do I think that Dak Prescott is the Patrick Mahomes alien or anybody that can carry you single-handedly to the championship? No, I don't think so. But that's okay. That's okay. Because at the end of the day, you have to realize that as a team and be like, okay, you know what? This is how good our guy is. Let's try to help him out. But the Cowboys have it ass backwards, where it's like, okay, let's take weapons away so you can prove yourself. But then it's like, then all you're doing is hurting your team's chances to win.
But here's the thing that drives you crazy is because we turn around and say, well, when you say that he didn't have weapons or great players and stuff.
Shout out to the 200 people in the chat.
He can't do scrap. He doesn't have weapons. But I look at somebody like Derek Carr. He had Devontae Adams. He had Josh Jacobs.
Yes.
He had the tight end.
And I hate doing that.
And I'm not doing it to try and belittle the other quarterbacks. But you're looking at what Dak Prescott did versus what other guys had.
It's called
we lost to San Francisco. Okay, Dak Prescott slid, and they bobbled that whole situation. We lost to San Francisco. We got killed for that. But guess what? The next week, where you have Aaron Rodgers playing at home in a cold game, which they are known for playing for.
The great Aaron Rodgers.
To the same team as the number 1 seed, having an extra week of time off. Nobody bats an eye. And he had Devontae Adams. He had a hell of a team. He was MVP.
Yeah,
they lose. Oh, well, okay. So if you're saying Dak Prescott can't do it, well, Aaron Rodgers didn't do it when he had all kinds of weapons.
And I hate doing that, but it's our defense mechanism. Like today, like what we did, and we weren't trolling. We were reporting what actually happened.
We were trolling. Come on, man. We were trolling.
It was an article in the Philadelphia Inquirer.
I'm going to say I got
you were trolling some bitch. Yeah, you were trolling.
Because you're just beginning to get here. I take this stuff every single day. I mean, I've got people out there with channels that are literally
Space won't even acknowledge him. He'll just go on to the next guy.
No, but
I know,
it just felt good.
I just felt
to gotta just throw a little bit back.
Yeah, no, it was a little bit of trolling, but it wasn't like you're making up the information, Mark. It really happened.
No, I was just kind of.
I was just trying to say, stop worrying about what Dak's doing in practice. You didn't, say that he was carving up the defense.
Hold on.
You didn't say he was.
Julian, you said, well, Carr had the worst head coach in the league. Oh, but
why are we couching?
Here's the problem: is we go around and we find excuses for other guys because we literally had Cowboy fans when the 49ers beat Aaron Rodgers. They said, well, it was cold. I'm like, of course it is.
Oh my Lord.
That's their big home field advantage is playing in the cold. And now you're saying, well, the Packers lost because it was cold. I'm like, come on. And if you talk about bad head coaches,
to a warm weather team.
Look at Jason Garrett. We had that guy as a head coach, and should I say Jerry Jones as a head coach too. We'll make excuses for other guys. Everybody's talking about interceptions for Dak Prescott. Do we realize that he broke his thumb and had a metal plate in it?
And came back and still led the league in scoring. Now, I'm not here to, at the end of the day, we know how the season ended. Getting back to this year and what we have up on the horizon, I still think it comes down to us and Philly. But looking at the division, it's not getting any easier for Philly or us. Washington's going to be decent. They're looking decent. You're down on the Giants. I think the Giants are a borderline playoff team. I think that it's going to be good to be in a division where there's winners again. But I don't know, Space. I mean, what do you think, man? I mean, where do you sit looking ahead right now as we sit?
I mean, look, I think that you're going to have a really tough division next year. I think that every team deservedly has questions, and that's fair. I mean, you look at Dallas, you have to think about, okay, are these pieces going to finally put your team over the top? That's a fair conversation. The second part is Philadelphia. You lost your 2 coordinators. You lost a ton of starters on defense. And I think that, well, Jalen Hurts, he's still young. He can still develop. I think that he hasn't hit his ceiling yet. That's still the question mark for what's going to happen with that team. And also I have to factor in this for the division and also for anybody that doesn't know, the last time an NFC team that lost the Super Bowl went back was the 1974 Minnesota Vikings. And you can correct me if I'm wrong there. But still, it's been a long time. And I'm not saying that nothing can't happen, but it's hard. And then you look at the Giants. I think the Giants are doing their part. I think they punched above their weight last year. And I think it caught a lot of people by surprise. And I think they just need to take a little bit more time to get themselves.
Yeah, I don't think they're where we are, but I think they're a solid team. What I'm getting at is the days of the Eagles or the Cowboys just running the division. I think these division games are going to be like it used to be. Even when Dallas was winning Super Bowls, Mark, when we were winning Super Bowls, we seemed to always split with the Eagles. I was at most of the games. It wasn't always pretty,
One thing. I love weed. 124 row 4.
He's going there tomorrow?
He's trying to see if he can get tickets in the same section.
Oh, cool.
121 row 4.
121 row 4 or 124?
121.
Well, you said 124 row 4.
I said 121. No. See, you know what?
Come on, man.
I feel like I'm married to this fool. He's just he's just a
take a hit of your coffee.
Good Lordy. But section anyway. 121 row 4.
Eastside Harold's in the house. What's up, Eastside?
Did we see anything Texans-wise in there?
Not much, man. Not much. I didn't see any. Not that I remember.
Mark in Game Time starting to act like Dak and Diggs. Shout out to you, Mark Hutton, for the super chat.
But yeah, I think Washington. I've always said Washington's a quarterback away from really putting something together, and I think that Sam Howell will be that. I don't know, but I've always felt like they. With Alex Smith, they kind of showed themselves. I know it's a while ago, but I'm just saying, like, they showed that if they could get a competent quarterback, they could be a solid team. So I think for the Cowboys, it's not going to be a cakewalk this year like we've probably seen in the 2021 season. But I think that this will help the Cowboys, get themselves prepared for if they do get to the tournament, which I hope they're there.
Nag.
No, 121.
Definitely.
Row 4. See, Seti, you're doing it backwards.
Yeah, he's doing it on purpose.
Okay. I will say that I honestly feel like on both sides of the ball, talent-wise, this is probably the best team that we've had. Now, interesting thing that we actually heard today at the Hall of Fame. I digress. But because Chuck Howley is going into the Hall of Fame, this will now be 14 players on the Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl winning team, their first Super Bowl winning team, that are in the Hall of Fame. 14 players. Now, what's interesting is that ties the Pittsburgh Steelers that also had 14 players on 2 of their teams that won Super Bowls. Just think about that for a second.
Yeah, the lady had that stat. That was awesome.
Hall of Famers off of one team. That's incredible. And so the Cowboys and the Steelers played together. So you had 28 Hall of Famers playing in the Super Bowl.
Do you believe that, Space? You're a numbers guy.
That's freaking insane.
That's unbelievable. When she said that today, it was crazy.
No, right, yeah. I mean, it's one of the most talked about Super Bowls of that era. Yeah. Because everyone talks about America's team and the Cowboys and, the Pittsburgh Steelers dynasty. I mean, it was, I believe, if I'm wrong, was that the Super Bowl where Jackie Smith dropped the pass?
Yes,
correct.
Okay. Okay, I'm just making sure I was.
And the sad thing is, he made a game-winning play the week before, so he becomes the GOAT the next week.
He's going to be the guy, unfortunately.
I mean,
Linda, what's up?
And odds are, if he catches that, it's probably going to be talked about as like one of the best Super Bowls ever. I still think I would have to go back and watch, in my downtime, but. Watching it, it's like it was a fun Super Bowl for that era.
When she said that, man, I was blown away.
You're an idiot, okay? Seti, whoever you are, don't be an idiot. There were 30 teams then. That was before Tampa Bay, and before Jacksonville, and
all of us were trying to say.
Yeah, and Seattle.
How can we take a negative out of that? And I know it's somebody's trolling, but we're just making a comment that in that one game there was.
I bet Seti's
many Hall of Famers.
I bet Seti's an Eagle fan that also touts that the Eagles won 3 world championships when there were 10 teams. Okay.
What's the name of the original team? The Canton, was it Bulldogs or the Canton?
The Bulldogs, right? That was like the first really big team, and
the Canton Bulldogs. They have a lot of stuff in the Hall of Fame. Well, they were like the original team, Now,
let me preface this, and because I see somebody said, well, you've said it now. I do. I honestly look at it, I say the 2007 Dallas Cowboys team, that team was loaded too. We had 13 Pro Bowlers on that team, and it wasn't, when people say that Tony Romo didn't have a defense, we had a defense that year because we had D-Ware.
Was that when we lost to the Giants? No. Oh, was it? Yeah.
Giants on their way to the Super Bowl.
Patrick Creighton
but
drops
we
the
had
ball.
a lot of talent on that team that
year.
Yeah.
I know.
But I will look and say that across the board, now I'm worried about the offensive line. If the offensive line stays healthy throughout the season, then there aren't excuses. If we stay healthy, that's the key
There's
on
no
this season.
excuses.
But I look at this defense. We are deep,
Man, it's so
and
deep.
we actually have a defensive line.
Pause.
If we can stop the run. Oh my God! It's and make teams one-dimensional with the amount of pass rushes we have.
Here we go. Love the exaggeration. We're not exaggerating. Those are the facts. There was that many Hall of Famers in that one game. I just think it's fascinating. When you walk around the Hall of Fame, I don't care who you root for. I was just, I was in awe of what I saw, and I knew I've seen it many times on TV. But when you're in the room with all those busts, and then you see all the personal belongings to these people, you know all the great people that were there. It's just it was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah, and for me, it brings back memories of a lot of great players and stuff that are in there. But and unfortunately, today's fan out here doesn't give a rat's ass about Jim Otto or
they don't care.
Bob Lilly and things like that. But when you start seeing what those guys did, it was a totally different thing where they're not getting paid millions of dollars.
Yeah, you made that comment earlier.
That was Chuck
good.
McNarick. The reason why he was called Concrete Charlie was because in the offseason, he did cement. So if you needed your driveway done, talk to Concrete Charlie.
Yeah.
Because he'll hook you up in the offseason because they had regular jobs. Cliff Harris literally said he had to make a choice of working for this oil company or playing football.
Exactly.
And he said, well, I kind of got a few concussions, so I decided I'm going to go ahead and work with the oil company. And so that was a love of the sport. And
it wasn't about money back then.
And it was, you had Cowboy players that were Cowboy players for life. And so they really hated the Washington team. Now it's kind of like you're hired assassin.
Yeah.
Nobody has any allegiance. So it's a different game all the way around. But when I look at this team, the way it's currently constructed, the offensive line scares me. But you've got a hell of a lot of talent. And I honestly look at the NFC right now and say, there's not a lot of great quarterbacks there. There's not a lot of great teams there. There's going to be a couple teams that are going to come out of nowhere and catch lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, there always
that you're
is.
not going to expect, But I look at it and say, I don't know that there's too many more teams that have that much more talent. San Francisco, I still think they got questions with the quarterback. I don't know that Brock Purdy, now that there's been an off season for people to analyze the film,
NFL,
that
they
he
get
will
paid to do.
be as good. I look and say Jalen Hurts, and as the Eagles are making more running plays for him, I don't know that he's going to be as successful running the football. Teams are going to say, okay, we're not going to let him beat us with his legs. We're going to keep him in the pocket.
Keep you in the pocket.
Okay? We're going to make sure. I can guarantee you the middle's not going to open up like it did last year on all those games. And it's going to be more difficult for him. So this is where you look at it and say, the Eagles are destined to come back to earth some. They're going to be good.
Yeah.
But Dak Prescott,
you'll get the Eagles
last
fans
3 games,
that tell you
40-plus burgers for a guy they say is ass.
It's just amazing how the roles are reversed. But I really don't want to talk too much about the Eagles. But it cracks me up. Whatever fits their narrative is where they're going to go. But it is what it is. Space Cowboy, just watching these two disagree or argue as married friends. Tommy Montoya.
I'm just a.
He's the marriage counselor.
Neutral observer. Yeah.
I have to go in my neutral corner in a minute.
But yeah, shout out to Joe Gonzalez with the $5 super chat on my end. But I think
JoJo.
Shout out to Joe.
I do believe that at the end of the day, by just doing basic list checking, the Cowboys have the route in front of them to do, to get there. Now, will they do it is the question. I don't know. But I'm just telling you right now, where I stand on this team is that, okay, last year you were a team that made it to the divisional round of the postseason, and you were whatever away from getting to the next round. I don't really care. Either way, you lost. Okay, so you went out, you got better. So by looking at how the Cowboys have progressed under Mike McCarthy from missing the postseason, losing in the wild card, losing in the divisional round, I think all eyes on Cowboys Nation should be, the expectation is at least the NFC Championship game, get to the final.
Correct.
And by the way, that's the expectation of what we should be looking for.
Yeah.
Not saying that that's going to happen. I'm not implying that. But if I were to look at the landscape of the NFC, like you've been mentioning, Mark, I mean, you look at the Philadelphia Eagles. They have question marks. You know, is the Super Bowl hangover going to be there? Jalen Hurts, is he going to like? I think
is he going to have a perfect season like he did last year?
I think they'll be fine offensively. I think that he'll actually. Me personally, I predict he will have a better season than he did last year, statistically speaking. But record-wise, we'll see. It's more so the defensive side of the ball that I have questions about with Philadelphia.
Their
That's an honest
linebackers.
assessment. But yeah, like let's say that they're in the mix. Okay, cool. So then you talk about San Francisco. San Francisco has a fantastic defense, and they have a great offensive mind in Kyle Shanahan. The biggest problem, like with Washington, has been they have had the worst quarterback luck of any contending team that I've seen in the 2010s into the 2020s. And so I look at them, I'm like, okay, if they could find a quarterback, they could put something together. But then after that, you kind of have to think, okay, besides talking about the Cowboys, who else is there? Like, you go to the West. Okay, you have the Seahawks, who are still putting together a roster, which, have the same season he had last year. Will that roster do well there? Okay. Arizona, I don't think Arizona's going to do well. I think that they're going to fall off a cliff.
Yeah. Kyler Murray won't even be ready to start the season.
Then you go to the NFC South, which looks like a dumpster fire between the Falcons, the Saints, the Bucks, and the Panthers. And
but they got a great quarterback in Derek Carr. You know, we got Cowboy fans that would rather have Derek Carr than Dak Prescott.
Okay, that's a problem. But anyways, I do think though that the
Detroit's
Saints are the
getting a
best
lot of
team in that
love.
division. I'm gonna get to the NFC North and as well. So then you get to the NFC North. Everyone is picking the favorite, Detroit. Like, okay, understandable. Detroit's a team that's putting it together. They were close, but like,
It's Detroit.
We don't know.
Okay.
we don't know. It's Detroit. You have Green Bay. They have a new quarterback, and that eliminates one boogeyman from the Cowboys in the NFC with Aaron Rodgers. And then you go to the Vikings, which the Cowboys have done phenomenally well versus the Vikings since Kirk Cousins has gotten there. And then, and also when Sam Bradford was the quarterback, but I digress. And then you have the Bears, which we'll see how they do. They're on the right track, in my opinion. But then you go to the Cowboys, and you have to say to yourself, okay, out of all the teams that I listed, who the hell's better than the Cowboys? In my opinion, I'm looking at it. I think the Cowboys are the third best team in the NFC. I don't think that is a ridiculous notion to, I don't think that's being a homer. I'm just telling you, this is how I look at these teams. Like, you're telling me, okay, aside from Philadelphia and the San Francisco 49ers, you're telling me that the Bears are better, the Lions are better, the Saints are better, or whoever the hell else you want to pick your flavor of ice cream of the flavor of the week, whatever. Look, but here's the thing, though, and I will say this. We are justified to where if we don't get to that NFC title game, you better have one hell of a goddamn excuse for why we're there. And that's fair. I think that's fair. And, I don't want us to be in a situation where we're creating excuses. That's just my whole philosophy is like, don't put yourself in that position. Because you know what happened last year? Oh, we got rid of Amari Cooper. Oh, we got rid of this guy. So, of course, we weren't. I don't know how you guys feel about this team. Like, I think they can get there. Of course, going off of the odds, do I think that the Cowboys are going to go all the way? Probably not. Well, call me a hater, call me everything in the book, but I have gone on.
But you're looking at the odds.
The odds.
Yeah.
And you're going to bet the house against the one team. And that's odds-wise. And talking about odds, and I'll let you get to your point in a second. You know as well as I do the odds of a team that loses in a Super Bowl going back to the Super Bowl the next year. The odds are you're not. That's not being a hater of the Eagles. Space, don't you agree that the odds tell you that you're not a loser of a Super Bowl isn't necessarily guaranteed a spot in the following Super Bowl, right? Just like it's been since 2003, 2004, a team who's won the NFC East is going to repeat the NFC East. I'm not telling you they can't do it, right? I'm telling you the odds tell you it's not likely, right? That's all. Am I right, or am I just...
No, you're correct. And I think that that's a fair assessment. Because that's how I'm approaching this and why I think that it's not outlandish to say that the Cowboys have the potential to be in the Final Four, be in the NFC Championship game. And possibly go all the way. That's just how it is. That's just how we're looking at it, right? Or at least I'm looking at it.
That's an objective way to look at things. If you really take your emotions out of it, and it's hard because it's football. We all like football. Come game day, whether we're a 6-point favorite or a 10-point underdog, we want to win. We think we're going to win. That when the ball's kicked off, right? So you got to keep the emotion in it. But sometimes I keep going back to it. They don't look at it that way.
Here's the thing, on paper is one thing, reality is another. Because I look at it and say, people say, well, you've got to make it to the NFC Championship game and stuff. And the fact that we actually won a playoff game to begin with what we were and where we were looked upon. The preseason rankings by ESPN last year, okay, they had the Buffalo Bills at number 1. Why aren't we looking at them as a failure? Remember, we've got Josh Allen, who's on the cover.
He's on the cover of Madden, Mr. Okay. He's a walking interception. I love Josh Allen.
But you look at that team, they got guys like Von Miller in the offseason. That team was loaded. They had tons and tons of talent, but for whatever reason, they couldn't get past, divisional weekend like us. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, well, they were a playoff team. The Rams were considered loaded and all that, the third best team. Kansas City, of course, wins. The Bengals, they were right on that one. They had Green Bay. Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers.
This is going into last year?
This is the preseason poll for last year. Green Bay, with Aaron Rodgers, couldn't beat the Detroit Lions at home with the Lions having nothing to play for. San Francisco, Chargers, Ravens. And then you had Dallas Cowboys.
So Dallas was rated ahead of Philly going into last year, even with that dreadful.
There you go.
Yeah.
Let's see, where was Philly? Philly was ranked 15th.
This is per ESPN.
So, you can always go through and look and find that there's going to be some teams that you think are going to be really good that end up being ass.
Yeah.
Did you see the Rams going that badly?
I didn't see that going that bad. Now, injuries take a play, but they weren't just a quarterback bad. They were bad in a lot of areas.
Right.
So you can't say, well, you lost Stafford, that's why. But that wasn't the only reason.
Yeah. But that was your Super Bowl champion who fell off of a cliff.
Yeah.
So, you look at this and say, yeah, we do have a lot of talent, but for whatever reason, it's
Coles
hard.
Cowboys will go to the NFC Championship game.
It is hard to
Come on, baby. I hope you're right, Coles.
You need the ball to bounce your right way. You need a couple of calls from the officials. You need health on your side.
You need luck.
And almost in any game, I don't care if it's a blowout or a close game, there are 5 plays that can be the difference between winning and losing. And 5 plays is not a whole lot.
It's not. You could have everything lined up. And
what's interesting is we talk about how, everyone wants to mention the Cowboys lose in the division round. They're on a 7-game losing streak there, but people don't realize I'm pretty sure you guys probably were aware. The Cowboys have only played 2 home games in the divisional round in the entire 7 trips that they've lost in. You know how hard it is
to win on the road.
Which is,
and
you're right.
Clear, I'm not making an excuse. Anyone that's trying to, dude, it's hard as hell to win on the road. I don't care what anybody says. And the thing is, I'll give you a prime example of some of these teams that get a route to the Super. 9 times out of 10, if you get the number 1 seed, you're in a prime position. All you got to do is win 1 game, and you're in the NFC Championship game, right? And we know from experience, we had that, and we lost.
Yeah.
Those 2 times, but here's the thing: those 2 times you were at home, arguably were the closest times you've been to the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
And the reason I mention that is if we go back to 2021, if the kicker wasn't a complete dumbass and did his kicks, that team would be, and that team would have been the number 1
Correct.
seed. But that's why you have to not. That's why the regular season somewhat matters. But at the end of the day, I think what's really good about what's happened in this Mike McCarthy tenure is we've gone from, okay, can we at least get to the postseason and see what happens? Okay, I think we'll get there. But what can we do after?
Yeah.
There's a narrative that's shifted, and that's great. And I think that if we're going to talk about other teams, listen, I don't have a problem if anybody wants to criticize the play of any player on the Cowboys or who's coaching what. I'm just all for matching energy. That's all that I'm listen, if we want to criticize Dak Prescott for the play, that's fine. If we want to criticize Kellen Moore, Mike McCarthy, the defense, the offense, whatever, that's fine. But we shouldn't be giving free passes to guys like Josh Allen who
oh my God, I get
play well. against the Bengals in the divisional round. And we don't, and also we forget that the week prior, you saw a 27-0 comeback from the Jags.
Yeah.
So again,
But Justin Herbert is great.
I don't have a problem with acknowledging that, hey, these guys didn't play well. That's fair. But don't act like these dudes didn't. That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I'll say, my whole thing is if the Cowboys don't make it to the NFC Championship game this year, there's a problem.
Yeah.
We either had a massive injury bug wave come through, or we did not perform up to par.
Yeah.
And but that goes to show you it's hard to win a championship, guys. And we know
It's very hard.
And again, I think that's really where look, I don't care how you do it. I don't want the stats are fine and all. That's great. I don't think we care about that anymore. And gotta give a shout out to my guy Simus, because I think he brought up a really good term that I think a lot of us in Cowboy land are. We're championship dehydrated.
Oh man, I love that.
So the reason
I'm always dehydrated. Shout out H2O.
But the reason I say that, and I'm appreciative of him bringing that up, is because a lot of times we want to win it all. And trust me, I want to win it all. You guys want to see us win it all. I mean, for God's sake, I have not seen the team.
Yeah,
in the NFC
Space has
Championship game in my
never
lifetime.
seen a winner in his lifetime.
So trust
Think
me.
about
trust
that.
me.
That's sad.
That's
So he's
sad.
coming from a position of not at least having, well, at least I've seen it. Well, no, and I'm over it. I need another one, but he's never seen it.
I went back to because I'm going to go back to Cowboy right now.
There we go.
No, because this is where I'm going to applaud them for doing Malik Hooker and not waiting for that one. I'm going to applaud them for getting Diggs done. But I'm going to go ahead and kill him because we're still dealing with the Dak Prescott situation that we had 3 years ago. Because here's the thing that's crazy. And I went back and I did a video when Kirk Cousins got traded and got his $28 million a year fully guaranteed. It was like the Cowboys need to hurry up and get a deal done. And then Matt Ryan got his, and then Aaron Rodgers got his, Russell Wilson got his. So now all of a sudden the market was now
They were all like,
from 28 to 35. Yeah. When they finally got Dak's done, the market had reset. Well, they waited again. Lamar Jackson's got his, Hurts got his, Justin Herbert. So now all of a sudden,
you would have learned from your
the market is like 53. Okay, well, they may have gotten a little bit of a reprieve since Joe Burrow got nicked up. But now they've waited again.
Yeah, they're going to have to pay.
They've waited again, and they're going to have to pay.
Probably because
their only hope is that they can go to Dak Prescott and say, Aaron Rodgers kind of gave money back because he's trying to keep other players on here. Dak, let's make a longer deal and just make you a Cowboy for life and give us a little more cap relief so we can try and really get this thing together. That's about the only hope.
What's up, David Wiley?
At this point, because at this point, Dak Prescott's made plenty of money. But when I go back, I went back to those videos and stuff when Dak Prescott was getting paid, the talking point for all the shows were you can't pay a quarterback that much money because if you're paying 15%
to your salary cap,
then you can't win. And once you pay a quarterback, they don't win Super Bowls. It's funny. I haven't heard any of that with any of these other guys, with Lamar Jackson.
Why is that?
You only heard that with Dak Prescott and stuff. But I guarantee you, when they do an extension for Dak Prescott, that kind of talk will come back.
I just wonder why. I guess it's this Cowboy hate across the board, I guess.
But
Dak hate.
They
I don't
say,
know. I can't
Dak
believe
Prescott,
it's Dak. He's a good guy.
He doesn't have playoff success. You're telling me Justin Herbert, who just, for a while there became the highest paid, is the highest paid, that he's had playoff success?
Well, Space just pointed out he blew a 27-point
lead.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and again, I would think he would think this. We all think he's a talented quarterback, but
they got
you have
5
to do
takeaways. They got 5 takeaways in that game. Okay.
Yeah, you got Trevor Lawrence for 4 interceptions in a game, and that's the other thing.
Think about that. Really? They had 5 takeaways.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
And had a 27-0 lead, and they lost in the playoffs. Could you imagine if that was the Cowboys?
Wow.
Listen, at the end of I'm just a firm believer in that. Look, if the Cowboys, like, and I said this at the time, I said, listen, if you don't want to pay Dak Prescott, Stephen Jones, and Jerry, just let him go. Like, this isn't a hard feelings type of thing, right? Like, I'm not gonna
No.
Dak Prescott, like, listen, if Dak Prescott was gone,
Section 121, weed 121.
Like if Dak Prescott, like if they woke up the next morning
He got
and they're
the
like,
tickets at 124. I said 121, row 4.
He's arguing. With
Okay, I'm sorry, but it's but we're close, and they didn't really check the tickets. We might be okay.
No,
yeah.
And the fact that there's still tickets there, okay, you might be good.
But my point is listen, I'm a Cowboys fan through and through. I'm okay with doing whatever it takes to get the championship. I'm pretty sure we're all in the same boat. If it means if the Cowboys are like, listen, Dak, we can't play, you can't have you on the team anymore. Okay, like I'm not gonna lose sleep about it. But the fact is in a realistic setting, they made the decision to pay him when they could have been like, yeah, no. But also, they also made a deliberate decision not to pay him when they could have.
And save themselves some money, right?
But yeah, right. And also, you got to think about it this way, right?
With
Todd.
Yeah, go ahead, Space. No. I'm just going to rip Mark in a minute.
You going to rip me?
I don't know. I just it's been a while. They love it.
But with Todd France, we also got to factor in, like, this was going to be a big payday. And on top of that, this was, like, before they started bringing that analytics team, and on top of that, like, that was a whole debacle in of itself. Remember, we were talking about how the Cowboys refused to pay anybody because Cowboys was almost so much pie to go around. But here's the problem. This is why I will just tell everybody this, just to be truthful with you. If the Cowboys were like, all right, after this year, we don't want Dak Prescott on the team. I'm just telling you like it is. He has a $54 million cap hit next year. You can't trade him because he has a no trade clause. And on top of that,
you can't cut him.
Franchise tag him. So realistically, what you would have to do is you would have to tank 2024, throw that season away, and then you would be like, all right, Dak, thanks, goodbye, and then you would start over. But that's the problem is, like, listen, anybody that knows me, listen, if you're going to tank or you're going to try to move on from a quarterback, go get the best guy possible in the draft. Like, don't do this malarkey where it's like, all right, we're going to try and win, and then it's like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's all I'm trying to get at is, listen, if that's the conversation that's going to happen after this year, whatever, like, again, I think that's the other thing is the season hasn't played out, and a fun little thing everyone talks about is interceptions. Remember about Trevon Diggs and all the dumbass yardage he gave up after the 2021 season?
This is a good one. I know where he's going with this.
Yeah, this is...
nothing. So again, listen, I do not care. I just want us to win. All I'm just saying is at the end of the day, like, you know, the Cowboys put themselves in this position. They can't just cry, woe is me, because we paid him this much. Like, no, like, I think that if, like you said, Mark, if we really wanted to have a team-friendly deal, air quote, Dak would sign maybe a 7-8 year deal. Oh, that's too long. No, because you spread out the cap.
Voidable years.
Right.
Voidable years and all that other stuff. That's just how it, and honestly, that's the best
case.
Possibility.
Yes.
And then again, I'm trying to look at every possibility because, you know, we look at the positives. You also got to look at what can happen because, again, there's also the injury situation where he hasn't played a full season since 2019. Again, I hope the best, and I'm just trying to look at every angle possible because that's what we have to do. Because you never know. You never know.
Well, you know, and here's the problem with the contracts, of course, and where we're dealing with Zach Martin, who is now $500,000 lighter in the pocket from holding out. Zach Martin, when he signed this deal, was a great deal.
He was at the top of the market when he signed it.
A couple of years later, it's kind of like it's chump change. So getting the quarterback to go ahead and say, hey, let me get that. I think Aaron Rodgers recognizes, you know, this is it. You know, maybe I played 2 or 3 years here with the Jets. If I'm going to win another one, you know, is that extra $35 million with all the millions I've already made going to be worth it?
Right.
And that's what you have to wonder with Dak Prescott. You know, he's made a good chunk of money.
I wonder what's going to happen.
He wouldn't be making, you know, peanuts. And he has to start thinking about his legacy.
Yeah.
If I win a Super Bowl in Dallas, like Micah Parsons says, you know, I'm set for life. You're already set for life.
You're already set, but
you are there with Roger Staubach, that was a man.
How many man of the years?
Yeah, and Super Bowl winning
Super Bowl
quarterback.
possible. Like I was telling him the other day, Space. I said, just being inundated with all the negativity from another said team that I'm not going to mention right at this second about, let's just fast forward the season. It's not that far-fetched. And that said team, I don't really care what you think. Let's say the Cowboys win the Super Bowl, right? We all know that the quarterback is normally the guy who gets the MVP. Wouldn't that be a fitting way to end this year, to win the Super Bowl, have our guy be the MVP? Then what are you going to say? Not that I
already win another one.
Again,
that's what Mark said.
You already had that guy on Fox basically saying, unless Dak Prescott becomes part of a dynasty, he's like, he's not elite.
Oh, Chris Broussard.
Yes. You saw that, right? That was embarrassing.
So by his definition,
embarrassed by him.
The only elite quarterback just retired, and there's one budding one that's possibly Mahomes. Then that means everybody else. Are you saying then Justin Herbert's elite? And he hasn't won a playoff game? Are you saying that Josh Allen is elite?
Josh Allen's a good one.
He's not a dynasty. So it's like, and I know exactly what will happen, because in the same way they say, Dak Prescott, he needs guys around him to win. Well, I see a lot of guys with a lot of guys around him that ain't winning Super Bowls. But they will say it's because of Micah Parsons and the defense. Dak Prescott had to have a good defense to win a Super Bowl. Even though Green Bay, when they won one, they had a great defense. Even though when Russell Wilson won one, they had a historic defense. You know what I'm saying? So they will find a way to not give that guy credit and it being talking points.
I think at the end of the day, look, we understand that legacy is important here in Dallas because of what kind of franchise this is.
230 people, nice.
There is a long annal of history that comes with this team, and I think that there is only one thing that's separating any Cowboys QB from not being forgotten or just kind of like talking about, he was just here, right? And that is a Super Bowl championship. And I think that all things considered, whether anyone wants to disagree with me or not, Dak Prescott is on a trajectory to have a similar type of legacy to Tony Romo or to that of a Matthew Stafford before he won his championship, where it's like, okay, the guy puts up nice stats, the guy was a good quarterback, we're not taking anything away from there, but with the teams that he was a part of and him doing his part, they didn't win anything, right? That's unfortunately how people are going to look at it, right? So if Dak Prescott, assumedly he wins a Super Bowl, narrative changes to a certain extent, where it's like, okay, you know what, like this is going to be something my kids will talk about, or I will talk about to my kids and all the other stuff, like my mother passed on Troy Aikman and the legacy of Roger Staubach to me, and it's just like, if it doesn't happen, what's going to end up happening? We're going to be talking about, and we're going to be clowned, deservedly so, because of how this franchise has been. As a franchise that had two franchise quarterbacks in a span of maybe like 20 years and didn't win anything. But you could say the same thing about Green Bay, who had two Hall of Fame QBs, best of their position, arguably back-to-back, and only won two Super Bowls.
Yeah.
But my whole thing is look, I love Dak. I think he's a fantastic human being. I think he has the ability to lead the Cowboys there. There's no question there. I just think at the end of the day, like, we understand that the time's ticking. We understand the fans and us want to see him win it. We want him to win it. But, then people are going to be like, oh, because I remember when Romo was 30, 31, we were having those conversations. Is he really going to win one? Is it time we move on? Like, we're having the same conversation. It's deja vu all over.
But here's the thing that's funny, though. They were talking about the Commanders with the left hand up. The last time they won the Super Bowl was 1991. And in that time, in that 31 years, they've had 34 starting quarterbacks. They've drafted guys in the first round.
Rio, drink it in.
They've gone through and they've got former first-round drafted quarterbacks. They've got journeymen. They've tried everything in the world. I mean, they paid Carson Wentz $29 million last year. They brought in Ryan Fitzpatrick, who couldn't get through the first game. They got Alex Smith, who was a former number one player. They ended up drafting a Dwayne Haskins. They took 3 number ones and moved up for an RG3, and they still are in a quarterback desert. So to think that, we can just draft a guy, we're sitting there looking at a dude last night who was a number 1 pick, who was the replacement for Sam Darnold with the Jets.
Yeah.
You look at the Cleveland Browns that, they've drafted guys they thought were going to be good.
It's not
from Johnny Manziel, one of the guys that Jerry Jones wanted. They paid $230 million to Deshaun Watson, who was ass last year, and they hope will be
3 asses. That's not 2 asses.
That's what, but they don't talk about him. And they're still trying to find the quarterback. It's not easy to get that guy. And the Cowboys, they lucked into 2 franchise quarterbacks. Yeah. Let's be clear here. They did not sign Tony Romo as an undrafted rookie free agent
Payton,
and think that he was ever going to touch the field.
Put his foot down. He was an undrafted free agent, and they ended up outbidding. Or no, he took less to come to the Cowboys. That's how much they did.
Yeah, they wanted to go to the Broncos initially.
Right.
But here's the other thing is that, like you said, we have lucked into 2 franchise quarterbacks that were capable, or were and is, at this point, capable of getting us there. The thing is also keep in mind, like you mentioned, Mark, the Cowboys have had a terrible eye at quarterbacks.
Yeah, Paxton Lynch.
Connor Cook.
But
also, we got to remember, Tony Romo was almost traded to the Saints. It only took they were offering a third, or they wanted to get him for a third. They said, give us a second and we'll do it. If Jerry Jones said yes to that, then we're having a whole different conversation. We also got to remember the Cowboys went through a series of starting quarterbacks. People forget about that.
Oh, man. I mean, everything from Ryan Leaf to, Clint Stoner.
Who was the Georgia quarterback?
Anthony Wright.
Who was the Georgia quarterback? Georgia. Yeah, Carter.
I mean, we had it was
Testaverde, you name it.
Yeah.
But the problem is that I'm telling you that it's not easy to find a franchise quarterback. We looked into that. We could have been in a situation where we had Johnny Manziel. We could have had a situation
I love weed. See you tomorrow, buddy.
We could have had a situation where you drafted Paxton Lynch, and God forbid how that turned out. You could have been in a situation where maybe if Carson Wentz didn't go at 2 to Philadelphia, he goes to Dallas at 4 because they really liked Carson Wentz,
did.
And the other thing is, even though he had his fair share of good seasons, but I digress. The Cowboys haven't had a keen eye for talent.
No.
I mean, I remember when in the 2021 offseason, when they were still debating were they going to pay Dak or not, they were scouting guys like Mac Jones and Zach Wilson.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Anybody knows that. So again, I think people need to understand. Like, I of course, listen, you don't settle for bad stuff, but like, if you have a guy that we can say is a top 10, top 12 quarterback at the worst, you're good. That's what you strive for when you go into the draft. And I think that's where people miss the point, is that you need to have – that's the most important position on the field.
Right.
And I think that, if you don't have that, you ain't going anywhere. Everybody knows that.
And when you get that guy, you do everything you can because there's a short window of time that you have them. You go out and get more talent to go around them. You don't take it away like you did last year. You say, listen, and this is my conversation I was having with you yesterday. I say, okay, you're the Cowboys right now. You're Jerry Jones, and you're looking and saying, I got a lot of years behind me. I don't know how many I have in front of me. There should be a sense of urgency in saying, right now, I've got a Micah Parsons who is dominating. I've got a defense that's really good. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to keep Dan Quinn. My quarterback, he is 30 years old right now. I need to go ahead and say, let's go ahead and get some more pieces here to make sure
the chips in this year.
That if Tony Pollard gets injured in the playoffs, that I have more than just CeeDee Lamb. That's where you should be at right now, because you have to look at this and say the landscape of the NFC is not really good. Let's do everything we can to support the quarterback that we have. It's easier to get another offensive lineman and cheaper than trying to find another quarterback.
I got a message for Space from Cole's Cowboys. I just looked at my phone. Sorry. He says you need to know that we're going all the way.
Okay.
So,
okay. We'll see. I mean, I hope so. I'm not trying to.
No, I know exactly what you're doing. There's nothing. You're not being negative at all.
Hey, listen. Only one team out of 32 wins it all, and of course,
That's
there's other
right.
probabilities that go into it. So I'm telling you right now, like, here's what I will say: is like, if the Cowboys make it to the NFC Championship game,
We're all gonna party. No. I mean, I thought you were gonna say if he win the Super Bowl,
no.
we're all like we're gonna have a big
get
party.
to that. Listen, if they make it there, that's cool. But I'm not celebrating third or fourth place.
No, me neither. I'm beyond that.
If you get to the Super Bowl and lose, I ain't celebrating.
No, I told Mark that. Mark was like, "Yeah, we need to get some wins." I'm like, I can't deal with going and losing. That's not what Cowboys
You
do.
know what?
We go and we win.
I would at least be happy that I don't have to hear about us being couch
That'll
winners
never-
and not making it to the NFC Championship. Because you know what's
That's not gonna stop it, Mark.
The reality is this: making it to the NFC Championship game is not going to be enough. They're going to say, "Oh, well, the Cowboys, finally they made it to the NFC Championship game, but they can't even win that." So here,
right.
The
I hear you.
goalposts will constantly be moved.
Here's what I will say, as a little bit of hopium, because I people love to look at me as the pessimistic Cowboys fan. I'm just looking at it for what it is. but look,
Don't pee in my pond.
Right. The fact of the matter is the NFC is weak. The AFC is going to be a freaking WrestleMania dogfight, whatever the hell you want to refer to it.
Battle Royale.
But a battle royale, whatever. And you got to remember, it is single elimination. This isn't like baseball or basketball where there's multiple games, where it's like, okay, like you could have a team, I don't know, like the Astros, where they're like the best team in baseball and they can F up on one game and that's it, right?
Right.
We're talking about a situation where listen, anything can happen. We could be in a
That's what makes football great. Yeah.
Right, and we've seen it in the NBA where like you had an 8th seed make it to the frickin' finals, and then if you're the team on the other side,
You mean like the Giants beating us in the playoffs when we were the number one team?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Right, like for the Giants, like you don't know what can happen, and so I think that to me, if the Cowboys really want to play this thing out, you need to do well this regular season. You should. And you just have to carve a path for yourself. You either have to win 1 or 2 games to get to that Final Four, and then you just win an additional game or 2 to get to where you want to be. And I think that's where. And also, here's the other thing: like luck, like you mentioned, luck, all that other stuff. Also, you can't control who comes in front of you to play you.
Right.
Right.
And so, like, there are teams that have fantastic matchups that go their way. And, I'm not taking that against any team, really. Like, if we were in a situation where, like, let's take the 2007 Cowboys, for example. If the Cowboys beat the Giants, that you go down the field, Patrick Creighton doesn't slow up on his route, they win. They beat the crap out of the Packers, who Brett Favre never won at Texas Stadium.
Right.
So odds are they would have beaten him. Like, that's okay. Like, that's the route you're at. It's not a situation where you're going on the road and you're begging, hey, can you please get it? And that's the thing too. There is the part of the Cowboys fan base that's like, I'll be like, well, I wasn't expecting the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl last year, and going into that playoff game, no one thought the Cowboys were going to win. Oh, you're making excuses. Oh, whatever. I don't care. But it's true. Like, the 49ers were a 4-point favorite to win. Like, even with Brock
that's
Purdy
facts, man.
Okay. What's
Like,
up,
what are we
Wade?
doing here?
Okay, so Wade says Hall of Fame quarterbacks win Super Bowls. Look at the history of the NFL. I want a Hall of Fame quarterback, not a franchise quarterback.
They're not easy to find.
Well, but here's the thing. Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Fame quarterback. How many has he won?
He's won one.
He's won one. Is Russell Wilson a Hall of Fame quarterback?
We could go down the list of
He should be there.
Yeah.
I don't care what happened with Denver last year.
Yeah.
I mean, if he retired last year, he would be a Hall of Fame QB in my opinion. That's just my opinion.
There's not a lot of Hall of Fame quarterbacks. I mean, we know Pat Mahomes will be 2 times already. But there's not a lot of guys out there. I mean,
Right.
you look, is Josh Allen a Hall of Fame quarterback?
Not now, it's not. Not yet.
I don't think he is. Justin Herbert, is he a Hall of Fame quarterback?
No, not yet.
No.
So, I mean, Wade, I appreciate the super chat, buddy. You're my dog. But I can't look and say, here's the thing. You win Super Bowls, you become that Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah, that definitely helps your legacy.
I'm telling you right now, Matthew Stafford is going to be looked at as a Hall of Fame QB just because he had the one run with the Rams, and that's fine.
Well, and they also will. Here's the thing: they also will look and say, "Well, he was fastest quarterback to 50,000 yards."
Yeah,
but they won't look at him and say that was garbage time because the Lions were always behind and having to throw the football.
No defense and getting down. Yeah, I know, but I know.
I mean, look, you look at the past Super Bowl winners. You have Pat Mahomes for 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
You have Tom Brady in there for a handful. You have Matt Stafford, Nick Foles. Then you get to Peyton Manning. Like, bro, like I'm telling you, like this is a hard as hell accomplishment. Like, I still think the Stanley Cup is the hardest trophy to win in all of North America.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
The Super Bowl is a pain in the ass to win too, and it's just like, listen, we're talking about 1, 2, 3 dudes.
Yeah.
Between Peyton Manning, who's arguably one of the best quarterbacks to play the game, in my opinion, the best to play the QB position in terms of just how smart he was.
Yeah.
Tom Brady, the greatest of all time. Pat Mahomes, who's carving his legacy to possibly be the greatest of all time.
With a Hall of Fame coach.
With a Hall of Fame coach too, and then you have to go as far back as 2014 to get to guys like Joe Flacco. You talk about Russell Wilson,
Eli Manning.
Like, bro, it's not easy. I mean, listen, I'm telling you right now, it's the whole. If you want to say, I want a Hall of Fame quarterback to win me a Super Bowl. You have quarterbacks that paved their path to the Hall of Fame with being on teams and doing their part to get there, right? And that's where it's like, it's hard because we're entering an unknown era with Brady coming out, Mahomes coming in, and the NFC looks like a dogfight. At the end of the day, it's just.
But here's the thing: I want you to actually think about, though. Like you say Russell Wilson is a Hall of Fame, guy, but he doesn't win that Super Bowl without that defense, without beast mode. He threw 22 touchdown passes that season, right?
Yeah.
We look at
22.
Aaron Rodgers, who arguably is one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of football. He had the number 3 defense that was also 5th at taking the ball away when they won that one. And he threw 28 TDs and 11 interceptions that season.
Double-digit interceptions?
Yes. And that's the year they won the Super Bowl. Okay?
Yeah. You need a complete team. That's what you're saying.
With Big Ben. And you look at, they had great defenses.
They had the bus.
Had Jerome Bettis there. They had great wide receivers. There's no quarterback that I can look at and say they had bums around them. There's not very many. And even Tom Brady, the worst defense. Think about this. The worst defense that Tom Brady had winning the Super Bowl was the last one with Tampa Bay, which was 8th. Some of the years with New England, they had the number 1 defense. So this whole notion that this quarterback is, all you have to do is have a Hall of Fame quarterback. No. You're winning the Super Bowl. Well, Dan Marino was Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah, he got there his rookie year, never made it back. Has no rings.
I think it was a sophomore year.
Yeah.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
okay.
Second year.
Yeah, it was a sophomore year because I don't think any rookies made it.
Okay. Well, I knew it was early on in his career, but he never made it back.
You never know. Like, this is what I'm saying, man.
You think you're going to get back again? You need a team around you.
But here's the thing, right? And this is what's going to, and for this part of the conversation, I'll end it here, is listen. The Super Bowl alleviates, it's not alleviates, that alleviates pressure for some, and it elevates
9
those
quarterbacks have 30
status.
Super Bowls between them. Shout out to Wade.
And there is an elevation that takes place with their status. Before, listen, Matt Stafford, woe is me. I'm on the Detroit Lions. By the way, I agree. Like, I thought he should have been on another team because that team wasn't helping him, even though he had Calvin Johnson and stuff. But it was like they weren't doing anything. So he goes to another team, he wins a championship. Right. He goes to another team, he wins a Super Bowl. All of a sudden, he gets looked at as a Hall of Fame quarterback. Right. Then you look at a situation where, Russell Wilson in his sophomore season wins a Super Bowl. I vividly remember, here comes the next dynasty, and he goes in the whole interception on the goal line and never gets back there.
Yeah.
So here's what I will say, is that I know that there are people in the fan base that think, hey, Romo's a Hall of Famer regardless. I don't think so.
No,
I personally
I don't
think
either.
He's all very good. But here's what I will say. If Romo wins if he won a Super Bowl,
he'd be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, right. He'll get in there and we'll have that conversation. This is where I'm telling you, this is where we get back to the legacy part, right? You know, I understand it's a team game.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, there is a part of this where people look at it for what you did for your team on the road to getting there. You got to do your part. That's a fair assessment. I think that, you know, no one's going to acknowledge it. And again, I'm not saying it is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, if Dak Prescott wins you a championship in Dallas and he starts putting up stats that surpass Romo and all that other stuff, you know the conversation is going to come. You have to win a Super Bowl. Like you said, you have to win a Super Bowl to become a Hall of Fame quarterback. Like that's like we can't do this. Oh, you're a Hall of Fame QB already. Now you are going to win a Super Bowl. That's not how it works.
It's basically you win a Super Bowl, you become that Hall of Fame quarterback. But here's the thing that's interesting. Okay, so would Troy Aikman be a Hall of Fame quarterback if he had played on another team? Because he had the number one defense.
Yeah.
Let's be clear here. He had a Hall of Fame all-time leading rusher.
Offensive
he
line.
had an offensive lineman who was the best in the business in Larry Allen, and had other guys that
Eric
were
Williams,
hellacious.
Mark
He had one of the
Tuinei.
best offensive lines in the history of football.
Yeah.
He ended up having a Hall of Fame wide receiver. If he had gone to, a lesser team, would he have been a Hall of Fame quarterback?
Probably
Let's say he
not.
went to the Cleveland Browns.
Probably not.
So
As much as I love Troy, probably not.
that's the argument that I have to make to people is you don't understand. Just because you're a great quarterback is not enough. And I know they're going to say, oh, well, he's saying Dak Prescott's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Well, if Dak Prescott and the Cowboys win a Super Bowl, I can guarantee he'll be in the Hall.
Well,
I can literally
Dak is
guarantee
already on his way to owning all the Cowboys
if
records.
he plays 3 more seasons, he will have every Dallas Cowboy record except maybe interception.
That's not speculation. That's not being
That's just
being
by
a homer.
average numbers. If he plays for 3 more years at the Dallas Cowboys.
So if he wins a Super Bowl, he's getting into the Hall of Fame. Sorry.
It is what it is, and I know that some people don't like it that we bring up these hypotheticals, but it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, look, I think that Troy Aikman, what made him special is the postseason moments, right? We know that, and I understand. Like, listen, I know people love to look at Troy and take, he was terrible.
The stats and this and that.
No. Okay.
it doesn't matter.
Twist. Oh, hold on, Twist. I am not throwing Troy Aikman under the bus. Not on contraire. But when you had Jay Novacek as a check down guy, when you had Michael Irvin and Alvin Harper, who was deadly.
Troy would be the first one to tell you.
God. When you had an offensive line that was literally opening up holes that Emmitt Smith was not getting touched for the first 5 yards.
We
downfield.
treat Troy.
These things make differences.
We treat Troy like we treat Emmett. Everybody and their mother says about Emmett that he's not necessarily the most talented running back to ever walk the earth.
I still say Jim Brown was the greatest running back.
I mean,
of all
and
time.
in my era, I would say Barry Sanders is the most dynamic runner I've ever seen. Just with my eyes,
had no help whatsoever.
So I love Emmett. Emmett's the man. Nobody's saying that. He's a Hall of Famer. Nobody's ever beaten that record. Especially look where running backs are going. But Emmett was helped by an unbelievable offensive line. And he had great vision, so I'm not taking anything away with him. His feet were like some of the best. Didn't have a major injury.
You remember the statistics?
He didn't get hit until 5 yards past the line of scrimmage till half the time.
But do you remember the statistics of when the Cowboys, when Emmitt Smith rushed for 100 yards, they were like
99 and 1 or something
like that.
Yeah.
And when Emmitt Smith held out for those 2 first games, even though you had a Hall of Fame quarterback and great offensive line, 0-2.
Monday Night Football, I remember that.
Being able to run the ball in the playoffs is key. And people will keep saying, you're blaming everybody but Dak Prescott. But if you look at the Cowboys, when we played San Francisco, when we've lost to Green Bay, Zeke is not there. Last few playoff games we've had, Zeke is getting like under 30 yards a game. And when you're getting 70 yards rushing and your quarterback's getting like 30
but it's
of them,
true.
You're not going to have a lot of success. You're one-dimensional.
I think that's the other thing. When you go back and watch
Jay Smooth.
Game, so when you go back and watch,
Troy Aikman is in the Hall of Fame. Jay Smooth. Okay,
Yeah.
he's definitely,
he definitely is in there. He got in. He was like first ballot.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing too is like we know that Troy was the reason even past the first 2 Super Bowls he won. They won the 95 championship because of the standards he held up because of Jimmy. That's my fundamental belief looking back at it. But when you go back and watch the 49ers playoff game, this is where I think people forget that the game up until the third quarter, and it kind of started getting away from the Cowboys, was they kind of were just like, okay, we're trying to run the ball against the San Francisco 49ers. They can't do it. Pollard gets hurt at the tail end of the half, I believe. And we're kind of begging, hey, okay, can Zeke do something? Can he be at least moderately effective? And the problem then became you became one-dimensional.
Right.
And you played right into the 49ers' hands. Again, people will tell me, oh, well, Dak should have played better. Okay.
I agree.
Fine.
Yeah, Dak needs to play better,
fair.
too. Yeah.
That's fair, because there was a point where, and people forget this, after he threw that first interception, he played fine.
Mm-hmm.
But then when that second half came and they got one-dimensional, it was ugly.
Right.
You
had CeeDee Lamb, and that was it.
Right, and that's you had the one CD.
And this is gonna sound like, and it is. I am making excuses for Dak, but the coaching staff, i.e.,
Kellen Moore,
didn't make it easy for him. And this is why I always go back to Kellen. Kellen can give you the stats, but Kellen wants to stick to what he knows, and what he knows will win. And his adjustments, I've always questioned that. He's the opposite of Dan Quinn. We could struggle in the first half, or we always come out in the second half defensively under Dan Quinn and be better. That's not always the case under Kellen Moore. It'll be interesting to see what he does in LA Chargers, because he has a lot of talent around him. How is he going to do? That's...
somebody just
shout out to the 230 people still in the chat. We're rolling good here.
Well, this is why young people go, because that's where people finally join in and all. But here's an interesting thing, because we have been talking about Dak Prescott's interceptions and stuff, right? If I told you that Troy Aikman only had one season with 20 or more touchdown passes, would you believe me?
I wouldn't on the surface.
If I told you that Troy Aikman only had 165 touchdown passes in his career versus 141 interceptions, would you believe me?
I would not believe you. Obviously, those are the numbers. Yeah. No, I mean...
Troy Aikman had almost as many interceptions as touchdown passes. 165 to 141.
It's crazy.
That's a fact right there. 141 interceptions.
I would say, like Space pointed out, he was unbelievably... And it's funny to say that, but he was very, very accurate.
Smith, I agree. Malik Davis should have definitely played.
We've talked about that.
Yeah, we've talked about that one.
Yeah, Malik Davis should have came in.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, I think that what's big about it is the Dak interception thing only came about because if you go back and watch film, those interceptions came from a myriad of reasons. Either it was Dak Prescott's fault because he threw a particular pass, a receiver didn't do his damn job, or a tight end didn't do his damn job. Also, you have to factor in the option routes. That didn't help at all, too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can go back and take a look. I mean,
240.
we're talking about the 49ers game. Bro, when I watched that game live, that first interception Dak throws, Gallup's just standing there, just watching the dude run past him. Like, bro, what are you doing here? I can't, but I will say that you like this is the problem that I have is if we want Dak to be productive, we can't be afraid with him. We can't have you throw the ball. No, screw that. I think that at the end of the day, he has. By the way, last year was not his worst season. People forget about 2017.
That was the Zeke year where he was, every other week was he going to be suspended? Tyron Smith got injured. It was bad. Yeah.
My thing is Matthew Stafford led the league in interceptions back in 2021, throwing 17
and won
41 touchdowns, and won a Super Bowl, and no one gave a damn.
That's a good. That's an unbelievable.
4 pick sixes that season. It was bad.
But again, I don't care if Dak Prescott throws 13 to 15 interceptions.
Schoonmaker,
30 plus touchdowns. Mm-hmm. If he's throwing 30, 40 plus touchdowns, I don't think anyone cares.
Yeah.
Because all that matters is you're being productive. No one wants to talk about it, but Dak Prescott had a touchdown pass in every single game last season. Oh, he threw an interception. No.
Okay, now, listen to this one.
Yeah.
This will blow people's minds away. So in 91, okay, the Cowboys' first Super Bowl, Troy Aikman had 11 touchdown passes and 10 interceptions.
91. Okay.
91.
So 89 he was drafted. So
92 he had this is the most touchdown passes he had in the season.
That's Super Bowl
23. But 91 was his first Super Bowl.
92.
I think I'm sorry, 92.
Yeah.
23 touchdowns, 14 interceptions.
14 interceptions.
23 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. The next year they won the Super Bowl again, 15 TDs, 6 interceptions. And mind you, 3,100 yards passing.
Wow.
And his last Super Bowl year, 16 touchdown passes, 7 interceptions, and 3,304 yards. I'm sorry, 3,304 yards.
I think that was the year he got hurt. I think
he played 16 games.
Did he
12
really?
and 4.
What was the year where Bryan came in? Was that 93?
93.
Yeah.
He played 14 games, had 15 touchdowns and 6 interceptions.
Okay.
So, there's a difference. If you look at those numbers, and we're looking at a different era.
Yeah, definitely a different
We're looking
era.
at a different era where they're not passing as much. But when you look at those numbers,
or how the game is
take away
officiated.
the Super Bowl, you look at that and say, in his career, he's got 165 TDs and 141 interceptions. You're not saying that he's the greatest, quarterback for the Cowboys ever. In fact, the highest scoring team that the Cowboys ever had was led by Danny White.
But I think what we'll all agree, when the lights were the brightest,
he shined.
He shined, and he was able to hand, I say this, but he gave the fans what they wanted. He came through. There's just real quick, the story like still gives me goosebumps
Jesse
when he
White.
talks about the feeling. And this is Troy Aikman. He's been a #1 prospect since he was born. In high school, in college, he went to Oklahoma, and then he transferred to UCLA. He was always the man. He was starstruck at the beginning of the Super Bowl. He said he was nauseous. He didn't know if he could throw the ball, and yet he went out in 92 and was almost perfect.
True.
So that's what separates.
And I don't.
What you could do in those moments, you could have whatever. You could do whatever. But if you step up in the brightest lights and you win a Super Bowl, win 3 Super Bowls, that's why you're in the Hall of Fame.
Okay, but here's my point right now is there's a lot of great quarterbacks out there that will never win a Super Bowl. Now, Jesse White, shout out to you for the Super Chat. He says the Super Bowl is the only way to be a Hall of Famer. Trent Dilfer would be one. Most teams that win a Super Bowl have some defense. Elway didn't win one until his 30s. He didn't actually win until he got Terrell Davis. And
they shifted to more of a running
team.
Conservative.
And what that says is it's beyond just the quarterback.
It is.
It has to be the complete team out there, or a hell of a lot of luck.
That's why these Eagle fans get so butthurt, and I'm going to just say it for the last time when I say that Howie Roseman hit a home run with almost every move last year, and that's what
God.
you want to happen.
And still, it wasn't enough.
And they didn't, and you want your GM to do everything he can. That's what you want. You want to Jalen. I'm not saying it ain't a slight on Jalen to say you had all this talent. It's not. You had the top 3 tight end. You had 2 top 5 receivers last year. All right, maybe Devontae's top 10. AJ's definitely was top 5. You had the best offensive line. Everything. You didn't have any real bad injuries. And you lost to a team. And I'm just want
quarterback on one leg.
Quarterback on one leg. Isaiah Pacheco, shout out, Vineland, New Jersey, 20 minutes down the street from me. We was Spacey was a 7th round draft pick, I think. Juju Smith-Schuster, they weren't that loaded. Their offensive line was, it wasn't the best. It played well at times. They suffered injury. You lost Tyreek Hill. The Eagles lost to an unbelievable quarterback, in my opinion, who was playing on one leg. It was
one of the best future.
If you were going to win a Super Bowl, it should have been last year. that's all goes in anyway. Space. I didn't mean to cut you. Go ahead, finish your thought.
No, you're good.
Yeah,
No. But it is fair. I think that every team should strive to make things easier for themselves.
That's the goal.
I don't think that's out of the that's not out of the realm of possibility. When he used Philadelphia as an example last year.
Well, wait a minute. I'm sorry. We've got idiots out there. Nobody sacks anymore. People don't see guys like T.J. Watt out there, Myles Garrett. Okay.
Nobody sacks.
No, somebody literally said, nobody gets sacks anymore. Are you kidding me? The Eagles,
the whole Eagles defensive line had double digits.
The record last year.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Don't be that guy. At least have a take and don't suck.
I think each one of the defensive linemen had double-digit
sacks.
That's just what I'm saying. That was your year, Twiz, if you're still in the chat. That was your year, my man.
I think that, look, at the end of the, I understand. Like, they had a fantastic team they put together.
Mm-hmm.
They were able to start out so quickly. They were able to wrap up the number.
Yeah.
It took a little bit later than it should have, but it's okay. You got two really good matchups in
playing the Giants
but that's nothing to take because listen, man, I picked the Eagles to beat not only the Giants but also beat the 49ers to get to the Super Bowl. But you had that team that was constructed, and also I wanted to say this, this is in regards to a guy in Jalen Hurts who, in my honest opinion, has not hit his ceiling yet, and he still had a fantastic year. I just think that, and he balled out in the Super Bowl. The problem was that you ran into the best quarterback in the league, arguably the best, in my opinion, the best coach.
He just refused to lose, in my opinion. He just kept coming back.
It was hard. Listen, it is hard because it's one of those things where you had to basically play a perfect game in order to listen. We talk about how Jalen Hurts fumbled the football. I think they went down the field and scored on the next play. I didn't really care about that, but it's just it goes to show you, you have to play a perfect game.
You really do
against these. I guarantee you, dude, if the Cowboys were in the Super Bowl and they, I would say the same thing before the game. They would have to play a perfect game. And honestly, I thought Philadelphia was going to win that game.
I called it too. I was shocked
until Patrick Mahomes' heroics came in, and that's not me just. No.
Oh, okay.
Just, honestly,
sorry, Coyote. Got it wrong. I took it the wrong way.
My point is listen, every team should strive to make it easier for their team. And I think what Philadelphia also did that was smart was put themselves in a position to where if something didn't work out with Jalen, you can move on from that. Or, hey, we can reload the team with the amount of draft capital we have.
Yeah.
I'm not mad about that.
That's what they did their job as a front office. Yep.
Yeah, and that's it. I just think that
Jesse Wyatt.
Well, Jesse Wyatt, shout out to you in the super chat. I want your opinion. Do you think if Dak was under Andy Reid, he'd have 2 Super Bowls already? He makes all quarterbacks look great. I believe in Dak. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole different level. I mean, you're basically comparing having Jason Garrett versus Andy Reid. Yeah, I think that Dak had the potential with a great coach and a great roster. Yeah, I don't see how it definitely increases his odds of being able to get there. I'm sorry. Jason Garrett and Kellen Moore, I know we have the revisionist history where everybody believes that Kellen Moore is great.
I mean, to be honest with you, if you put Dak Prescott on the 49ers, they probably have 2 championships right now.
There you go.
I mean,
people are going to think that we're just being homers for Dak, but it's just fact. Just look at him, man. I mean,
with the weapons that San Francisco has on that team, oh my God, and that defense,
Agreed.
Yep.
Tells you it's teamwork. So.
Man, we've been going on almost 2 hours. You look tired, man.
I look tired. I'm ready to roll. I'm wide awake.
I was going to say, because, I know you're getting up there.
You're just trying to make excuses so you can end the stream.
I didn't know. No, I'm good. I was just checking on you.
You're the one that told me.
I see a little. Do I see a little sweat, or is that?
You got no sweat, man.
Oh, I thought you were sweating over there. Okay, maybe it's the gray whiskers over there. It looks like water that's dripping on there. Or for a second, I thought maybe a bird shit on you again. Or like they shit on.
No, I didn't have that. That would be.
We were out at downtown Cleveland.
Hey, Twiz, you'll get
I think an eagle has a seagull that's a cousin or something, because I had just finished doing a video talking about the Eagles, and a seagull flies there, and all of a sudden, I get shit on.
Well, you said I don't know if it's shit, and then when you got up, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much bird shit. You got shit on by an eagle.
So, the strip clubs. What you talking about, Lola? There?
We're not in Atlanta. We're not in hot Atlanta.
No, shoots or Tampa. I've never seen a place with so many things.
Really?
Every corner there's a strip club, a church and a strip club. They're just side by side.
Church and a church. Well, you go into one and then you go right into the other.
Look, there were some churches that looked like strip clubs. It's okay. They had literally. No, this was crazy. In Tampa, I remember being there for the Super Bowl. They had what looked like a crashed spaceship. Okay, UFO. That was a strip club. It was a strip club.
Wow.
It was just like, wow. They must have the highest per capita strip clubs of any place that I've ever been in my life.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm sorry.
More than Vegas, probably.
I think it was. It was great. I've never seen so many. But be that as it may, I'm sorry, I digress. Mary Lon, how are you doing tonight? No, this has actually been a great conversation.
It has been.
But we still haven't. Jim Laws, how are you doing?
Jim Laws, shout out. I always see him.
We understand the expectations then are definitely there this year in comparison to the way they were last year. If you believe that the Cowboys failed last year, then you're looking at this year and you're almost acting like the Eagles, where the Eagles feel like it's preordained that they're going to the Super Bowl and winning. Are we setting ourselves up for failure then? You know, these expectations.
Whose expectations?
Well, we look at it and we say,
us?
We keep hearing about, Micah Parsons putting out there #1 defense upcoming. And I want
my team talking that way.
I want defensive rookie of the year. We look and say, we've got Stephon Gilmore as opposed to, what's his name? Damn, I don't even want to say his name anymore.
All of that, Mark, the mainstream media is still saying that we ain't going to do nothing. So that's the good part. Well, because we don't want that. We don't want that.
Who cares? Okay, let's be clear here. ESPN, Fox Sports, those shows have all turned into the clown shows. They really have turned into clown shows. And, everything is turning to what we're doing right here. This is the Wild West. Everybody is coming to ESPN. I, in fact, believe that Stephen A. Smith is trying to get fired.
I think,
so that way he can get away from ESPN and get the buyout from them.
It sounds like
and continue doing, what he wants to do, the podcast and stuff.
I mean, it's a dying brand because, unfortunately, the way how media is going from, it was like originally with the analog television.
Yeah, how it's absorbed these days. Yep.
Yeah.
Now it's all segments, and I think the problem too is I always felt that sports media has been tainted by Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless ever since they launched First Take. Of course, the debate shows and all this other crap. I'm going to be honest with you, it does nothing but damage sports because it doesn't provide insight. It doesn't. Sure, you have some people, but nowadays digital content is what's being consumed.
Yeah.
And I think you're seeing content creators in every space in whatever the hell it may be, whether it be basketball, baseball, football, Cowboys, Eagles, whatever. There's everything. Well, and I'm telling you right now, you get more out of those because we're not trying. Like, for me, I say what I feel about the team, and my job is to give you informed opinions, whether you agree with me or not. Unfortunately, you have people like on FS1, like Shady McCoy,
cutting on dimes 25,
and like how he loves to claim he's a 2-time champion, even though all he did was be a bench warmer for both of them. Well, on top of that, you have Joy Taylor all of a sudden, who started off well, and she's just now saying shit for clout. It sounds like Colin Cowherd can't find his head from his ass.
Ooh.
And it's just like, it is what it is. And that's why it's like, it's all more so about giving crazy takes than being objective.
Yeah.
And I don't
hot takes.
That, and you have to look at the generations now. Nobody wants to sit around and watch a show for 2 hours. What people want now is
shock.
I want, everything is micro-targeted. I want to know what's going on with my Cowboys. I don't care about baseball. I don't care about hockey. I don't care about the other teams. And that's where you're getting exactly what you want in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and all that.
Fast enjoyment.
And it's also about the engagement. When I see people like Gina Dallas Diva, or Miss Gibson and things, they want to be hanging out with the people that they know. They want to be able to interact with you. And so everything is smaller per se and targeted directly to those fans.
Yeah.
And ESPN is kind of like a la carte. It's like going to that restaurant that sells pizza, Chinese food, subs, and seafood. You know, none of it's really that good. You're not specializing into anything.
I think, and just to narrow it back down to First Take or Undisputed, we know before the show where Stephen A's going and where Shannon Sharp's going. We know it's an old formula, don't you think? That we know Stephen's going to shit on Dallas, make an excuse. It doesn't matter. We know that's what's going to happen. It doesn't take a lot of insight. You don't sit there and draw up a great script of what you're going to talk about. No, you're going to shit on Dallas, and you're going to bring on somebody who's going to say, "Well, no, I disagree with you." I don't like that. I never did. And Marco, listen, you put a lot of that stuff up, and you get people talking. I just can't watch it. And the Space brought up Shady McCoy. I honestly don't believe that Shady even watches the games. And if he does, then he's really embarrassed. Like when he makes these takes, I look at guys like David Hellman. I know he's on ESPN. I know he's got a job to do, but he's an actual journalist. To sit next to him and then make comments, David Hellman saying he loves Shady McCoy. Listen, man, I don't know what you're doing. I understand you're taking a paycheck, but Shady McCoy's not watching the games. He's not informed about what he's doing.
Tommy Montoya, Joy Taylor is hot as AF. Screw that. I just like watching her pretty face. Okay.
Well, that's fine. No, you're good. You're fine.
If that's what you're into, that's cool.
But look, I just think that, it's, for someone as old as I am, I just turned 25.
You're a baby. God.
Like, I know. I've gone through, but the analog when I think it was like 2009 or 2010 when they changed the digital stuff, like going through that change and just seeing where it's at now, it's just, I don't like taking in the content they put out at ESPN because it's like, it's not informative. Also, like, what is the purpose of the show? Like, if the purpose of your show, right, on ESPN or whatever, because you're part of a big multimedia corporation that just wants you to throw crap out there for the algorithm, that ain't for me. And again, unfortunately, there is a large part of sports fans that want that, and I think they're doing themselves a massive disservice.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I think that there are guys in, just in our space, you, me, Wall Nation, Watch Lombardi, Cowboy Fan Talk, Skywalker Steel. I can go down the whole freaking list.
Yeah.
And they do a phenomenal job. Then you go to, the Eagles, because I know there's some Eagles fans watching. You got Philly 500.
They're always watching.
You got your Lord Brunsons. You got your, I think it's a Philly podcast, Philly Talk with Mike.
Yeah.
But the thing is they give you good information. If I want to know something about the Eagles, I want to look at their stuff because I can't trust the main sports media because they're just going to say stupid shit.
Yeah.
That's just how I look at it. And so that's why I think what we do is so important, just not for, we do it as a hobby, but I think that we don't think about it because it's like, oh, we just do it as a hobby. But we do it because we see what happened with sports and we get sick and tired of it. And we just want to see something different. And that's why I'm super big on that.
The reason why I originally got started was the beginning of when that started to change. It started with Tony Romo because they kept always talking about Tony Romo was a choker. But if you actually had looked back at the statistics, Tony Romo had more comeback games during his time than anybody else. If you actually looked at it, DeMarcus Ware,
be the opposite of choking.
DeMarcus Ware would have the majority of his sacks, through September, October, and start slowing down in November and kind of disappear by December. And so that was one of the reasons why I originally started actually doing blogs back in like 2010 and 11 on Facebook, because it was like, what they're giving you is not true.
Yeah.
But for me, it actually hurt because when I grew up, Space, you talk about the evolution of going from analog to digital. You have to understand, I went from newspapers newspapers and Sports Illustrated coming on Thursday being the only place that you really found out information about what was going on in sports.
Yeah.
And when George Michaels on NBC at 11:30 at night had a 30-minute sports machine show where they showed highlights across the country on all sports, it was like game breaking. That was like ESPN before ESPN was. And then when ESPN actually came through and showed you highlights, showed you the games, and let you see it and judge for yourself what was good and what was bad, it was incredible. It was the greatest thing in the world.
Right.
But somehow it turned into the reality show where they're feeding you their narrative to get a reaction, and it has nothing to do with what actually is happening.
And Stephen A. Smith actually blames us. He blames...
Because, of course, we're watching.
Well, he blames the non-educated, listen,
What's up, Ward family?
I have a college degree. There's a lot of people who are in the working field who have a college degree that doesn't go. I don't have a journalist, degree. So, but, we're allowed to sit in our, and I'm not going to name the guy's name, but we're allowed to sit in our mom's basement and go live and have our opinions. But that's what makes YouTube beautiful and great, whether you agree, like Space says, or not. I would hope that you would have some modicum of restraint and class. But at the end of the day, if somebody wants to watch you, then you do you. I could care less. But yeah, Stephen A. Smith did say that he blames guys like us and women like us who are doing it, and that's why he went on and started his show. He had to have that instant impact. So,
well,
it's your fault, Mark.
Yeah, it's our fault. But you know what? I'm not mad at it. I think it's actually incredible that you don't have to be that journalist that went to school and had the education and stuff. That it's about making those relationships with the fans and being able to do this literally from everywhere. For me, it actually got me out of a shell. I used to couldn't speak in public. To be able to be here at the Hall of
how
Fame,
that works, isn't it? You
sitting
go
here
from
in
one
the lobby
extreme
and
to
stuff,
the
we
next.
got people like, "Oh, your guys are live," and people that are recognizing you. It's an incredible feeling. I love it because of the relationships and meeting the fans and so forth. And I think, when I read, see, I'm not a big Twitter guy. I need to do more work and stuff on there. But when I see Space Cowboys numbers, the statistics that are literally dead on, that just blow away the narratives and things. When I listen to you with all the numbers and statistics and things and the information that you have, you're getting better information from people like us than you are actually from the sports shows.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's true, and you would think it would be the other way around because I don't have a 24/7. This is like Space said. I have a job. I do the best I can in the time that I have to give, and I'm not always right. But these people that are on TV, that's their job.
Yeah, but
that's their job,
and they have the money and the wherewithal to actually do it a lot better than what we do.
And
but
that's the problem. Yeah,
they're
and that's really the thing.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Space.
I was gonna say, listen, I have a degree as well. I went to college 4 years, and one of the things that I've learned even before while I was there, and even doing this on the side of full-time work and stuff like that, is that when you go to college and you're doing that, there is a seriousness that comes to research and putting out correct information because of you're trying to get that degree. It's a serious environment. But when it comes to this is what I'm saying. I know people that went to journalist schools and all that other stuff, and props to them because they're doing great. The thing is that they themselves, I still talk with them. They're like, yeah, I go to school, I have to bust my ass just so I can make sure that I do my part and I'm providing correct information. Because if I don't do that in school, I'm going to not do well. But then they get pissed off when they see someone that just because they were a player, all of a sudden they know better.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah.
Which I'm not saying that people that played the sport are inherently uneducated. I'm not trying to insinuate that. All I'm saying is not everyone that plays the sport knows what the hell they're talking about.
Amen.
What it is.
Yeah.
So, dude, and that's where you have guys and gals all over the place that are extremely talented, do their research, and can talk the talk and walk the walk. But they get they get overshadowed by those that were athletes because they were an athlete. And sometimes there are athletes that don't start off good, but then they take the time to do better. And so it's like there's a two-part to that. But that's why I think this is better than anything else, because you're getting no strings attached. Like we are, like I'm not held down by a multimedia corporation. It's like you have to say this,
right?
Because if you don't say this take, we don't want you.
We're looking at the numbers.
All this is,
you have to bash Dallas, and you have to stick up for Dallas, and you have to go, and then we're gonna tomorrow. Yeah, it's very elementary in that they're thinking, but that's all they care about is the bottom line. And I think people are tired of watching it. Honestly, I really do.
Well, I think the thing is the bottom line is, and like we're talking about, like I thought you were going to go with it, because they are so big, they have to get the views, the clicks, and things like that. And no longer is it you are responsible for actually putting out correct information. You know, that's across the board, not just sports, but in general, it's about getting people to watch. And becoming that reality show, you're seeing the takes getting worse and worse and worse.
Reality show,
you know,
that's a good
when
point.
You literally had dudes saying that Dak Prescott, and the fact that we're even talking about it goes to show that it works. But when dude says that Dak Prescott can never be elite unless he has a dynasty, is the dumbest thing in the world.
Yeah.
But yet it got people to think about it. When you think about, Bart Scott saying that Dak Prescott, I'd take Teddy Bridgewater over Dak Prescott. And then he was like, I'd take Jameis Winston. Okay, nobody would care about Bart Scott except for the stupid comments that he makes.
This is true. But this is, like Space said, this is coming from an ex-NFL player. It's almost embarrassing that you would come out and do that.
CTE.
He would come out and do that. I don't think it's CTE. I think he's just being a dick to be a dick. And excuse me.
Yeah, right. To be honest, it seems
he just wants to be a dick. He must. I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe you just hated, the Cowboys because they kicked your ass, or and I always, this is part of the problem for the Cowboys. Unfortunately, the Cowboys are like the rich kids that have everything. And you're a team that nobody talks about.
Space don't think that he has everything. He's never saw a Super Bowl championship.
Okay, no. I'm saying if you play,
but you know what I mean?
Okay, if you play for another team, okay, here it is, you're Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You just won the Super Bowl, and who are they talking about? The freaking Dallas Cowboys. Okay, it's like, why are they talking about these guys? They haven't done shit in 30 years.
How many times have we heard Green Bay fans say, "We're America's team"?
Oh Lord, how about that dude today?
No, you're not.
We're Cowboys kryptonite. It's like, dude, get the fuck away from my video. No. Are you following me?
It's just like that in any other sport. It's like when people can talk about the goddamn Yankees. I hate the Yankees, by the way. No offense to any Cowboy, Yankee, Laker, or wherever the fuck fan you are.
You're allowed to. Listen, I'm not a Yankee fan either.
Shout out to Jim Laws. You are 100% right. We were talking about Charles Haley, how the shit
they talk about the Yankees all the damn time, most of the time, that is. I don't care about the Yankees. They haven't been to a World Series in 2009. It's like talking about the Celtics. The Celtics haven't won a championship since 2008. And it's just like, bro, I get it. I'm not saying these teams are trash. It's just like, I would be like, even myself as a Cowboys fan, like, and maybe just because of how young I am, I might have a different perception. Even I'm like, dude, why the hell do they keep talking about, like, bro, like, I know why. I'm not ignorant to that.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it's like, you get mad that we're always in the news, but you keep talking about us and keeping us in the news. And trust me, I'm the first one that tells you, like, I like the Tom Landry approach where I thought that the America's team shit was stupid because it just puts a target on your back.
Right.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a target. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're Kansas City right now, it's like, dude, we're the beginning of a dynasty.
Yeah.
We just won another Super Bowl and stuff. But yet, how often do you hear anything about Kansas City?
Not much.
I haven't heard anything from them.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
But the Cowboys, when we got here yesterday, turned on the TV, and literally in 30 minutes, it was 3 segments on First Take about the Cowboys in a row.
And always just saw Stephen A. Yeah, you're going to choke again.
From Jerry Jones to, what do they call Dak and Prescott?
Now it was Dak in Prescott.
In Prescott, right. And then it went to
Regress Scott,
to D-Law, knocking down the one of the coaches. It was like, are there any, if you're an alien dropped here on Earth, you think that the NFL is a one-team league. It's only the Dallas Cowboys.
You would think.
It is literally that crazy. Well,
I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm just a guy with a day job and a voodoo doll who has been on here for 2 hours and actually had an incredible time.
Yeah, I will say I'm always against the extra long live stream. This went by quick, and I thought it was unbelievably interesting. I think everybody brought. There was never any downtime. It was pretty good. It was a good conversation.
There was no pause time. Okay. But here's what I need you guys to do, okay? Space Cowboy Media. Tell everybody where to find you. Space Cowboy's everywhere. But
he's everywhere.
You guys need to sub up to my man right there because I'm serious. He is very analytical. He is very precise. He's got the numbers down. He's high tech, okay?
He takes the emotion out of
just an
what
idiot.
he talks about, and that's sometimes you need that. You need somebody to tell you how it is, whether you like it or not.
It's crazy that I have literally lived his life twice in another 8 years. That's how I'm too old for YouTube.
Yeah, well, he came over to my house. He was saying, "Sir," I'm like, "Dude, man, I ain't that old." And then I looked in the mirror. I'm like, "Yeah, I guess."
Well, I wasn't trying to be rude. That's
Dude, man, you were cool.
He'd probably come over. Do you need a wheelchair?
Okay. Oh no,
Don't
I
start
said
your
that my
shit.
ass would get beat.
Nah.
Oh boy,
he was cool. But yeah, go ahead, man.
Yes, listen, thank you guys so much for the time. Greatly appreciate it. More than happy to do it again because I thought
We're definitely gonna do it again, man.
Absolutely. So you guys can follow me on Space Cowboy Media on YouTube. There are 200 people in Mark's chat. If you don't know who the hell I am Space Cowboy Media. You can find me just searching in the search bar. I put my thing in the chat. You can find me there. Again. Thank you guys so much. You can come over to the stream, like it. We do the memberships. If you want to support it there, that's cool and all. I really don't care. You can follow me on Twitter. I got all my shit over on the channel, so you could go take a look there. But again, this was a fantastic conversation. And obviously, make sure to sub up to Game Time Bryan so he can get the freaking chip challenge.
Yeah, and also before we get to Bryan here, shout out to Cole's Cowboys. Cole said he would love to be able to do videos and stuff full time and things. Cole, man, I want. Are you the one who plays the grand piano? See, it was the tale of two man caves because I looked at your house, how ornate and how beautiful it was, and then I saw Smitty. Smitty looked like he was slumming. Okay. Yeah. No disrespect, Smitty, and all that, but it was like, okay, you see the difference here. Dallas Cowboy fan, Eagle fan. But go on.
Now, listen, man, I'm just getting started in this YouTube thing. I met Mark a few years ago and just did my own thing. Me and Primetime Phil have a channel. We got a live stream coming up this Sunday night at 7 o'clock on Primetime Phil. But yeah, as far as this channel, doing more content. I am a full-time worker. So between Phil working full-time, I'm just now getting into doing more. I'm getting more comfortable with with help with guys like Mark Holmes, Space Cowboy. I appreciate everybody. You can find me on Twitter, Game Time Bryan. I don't do much on Instagram, Facebook, but you can find me on Twitter and YouTube, Game Time Bryan.
All right, so let me say, football is back, y'all.
Yeah.
We're here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We saw the game last night. Now, I had no investment with either of the teams, but it was just nice to see some hitting, some tackling, and everything else. And this is the beginning. From here on out, we got football pretty much every weekend with the exception
middle of February.
Right. And so this is it, man. The NFL winter is over. I appreciate everybody that's been in here and stuff, even you Eagle fans and you trolls. Although I must say that you Eagle fans seem to be a little bit tamer tonight. Maybe the bad day in Eagle Land kind of, brought you guys back down to earth and stuff. But I appreciate you guys. And we will be back Monday night. And also Sunday evening, we'll have a 5 o'clock Zoom call.
Yeah,
so if you're our channel
we're
member,
going to go on right after you.
You can definitely call in and definitely be part of the conversation. I want to get everybody's take on how they're feeling, gauge everybody's feeling on how they feel about the season and so on. And final message here for you Eagle fans that I love so much.
Fuck them birds. Fly, Eagles, fly. Now we shoot those birds out of the sky. Stupid dumbasses managed to give up a 3rd and 30 to my sexy arm. Pathetic defense and team. No wonder I own those piece of shit frauds every damn year. Don't get me started on the fans. You boo me while I earned a respected award. Losing the Super Bowl was just karma for you fuckheads. I can't wait to drop 100 on your heads next season while being the daddy of the NFC.